distinguished dignitaries, respected speakers, esteemed partners, and delegates. On behalf of the Services Export Promotion Council, a body set up under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, it is my proud privilege to welcome you all to Finno Legal Convergence Summit 2025 on the theme Regulation, Innovation, Globalization, Building India's Legal FinTech Edge. Today's summit brings together the critical pillars of law, finance, and technology to explore how India can strengthen its global leadership in the fast-evolving legal FinTech ecosystem. To formally mark the auspicious beginning of today's summit, we now proceed with the ceremonial lamp lighting, a symbol of knowledge, wisdom, and the guiding light of the progress. May I invite our esteemed dignitaries to kindly join us on the stage for the lamp lighting ceremony. Shri Varun Singh, Managing Partner, Foresight Legal; Dr. Pradeep Rai, Chairman, India Legal Research Foundation and India Legal Aid Center; Mr. Ajay Singh, Head Technology and Innovation, Australian Embassy Commercial Section; Mr. Ravi Sikri, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India; Ms. Tarvinder Kaur, Senior Director, SEPC; Mr. Chandranshu Avasti, Senior Director, SEPC. Before we begin the inaugural session, we have a brief felicitation ceremony to honor our esteemed dignitaries. May I now request Ms. Tarvinder Kaur, Director SCPC, to kindly felicitate Shri Varun Singh, Managing Partner, Foresight Legal.
Welcome once again.
Dr. Pradeep Rai, Chairman, India Legal Research Foundation and India Legal Aid Center. May I now request Mr. Chandranshu Avasti, Senior Director, SEPC, to felicitate Mr. Ajay Singh, Head, Technology and Innovation, Austrian Embassy Commercial Section. Mr. Ravi Sikri, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Thank you to all our dignitaries. We will now proceed with the inaugural session. To formally open the proceedings, may I invite Shri Varun Singh, Managing Partner, Foresight Legal, to address the audience with a special note. Thank you, sir.
Hi, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank the organization for providing me this opportunity. I understand that I am amongst dignitaries which are recognized and are well-to-do to speak and share their thoughts, and it's an honor to be part of such esteemed colleagues and speaking amongst you guys who have a large understanding on the issues which we wish to address today. Now, I think the first and foremost, I also wish to thank the organization on the fact that the theme of this very summit, which is taking this forward to 2047, Viksit Bharat, and luckily I've had this opportunity to speak on two other such events this year, and it's a pleasant reminder that I think unless we don't start talking about issues which are relevant for the industry, we can't start acting upon them. And I think the bright numbers that we've seen prior to the session begun, and even in the invite that the service industry has done, has a promising numbers shown during the COVID, after COVID, and even now, and how it wishes to go up to 1 trillion is definitely very, very promising, and of course it is taking all the steps in the right direction. Having a little bit of an experience of some of the earlier, so the main moot question for discussion is that how should we over-regulate or should we under-regulate for the industries to prosper? I think that question, in fact, some industries in India are already answering very well. In fact, there is a concept called a regulatory sandbox. Now, this regulatory sandbox is actually available in the insurance sector, where what you do is that you allow products to be there in the market for a testing basis for some time. And if the product is actually a success with a little bit of a less regulated availability, then it allows that product to hit the market. Now, this has helped the insurance sector in a great way to, under-regulate, to allow new products to crop up in the market. Now, something similar is actually happening at a global level. Now, there is a network called the Global Innovation Finance Network, in which more than 50 countries are participating as on date. And what it basically allows is that, for example, a product, which you want to test not just in India but cross the border, right? And if India becomes part of that network, what it allows it to do is that not only it will allow the product to testify and hold good in its own market, but the catch-up time from India to, let's say, USA, India to Singapore will also reduce, because that product will be tested in multiple states at the same point of time. So I think an initiative to allow India to become part of this global innovation financial network will go in a long way to prosper the service exports. Second question, I think, which the note referred to was pertaining to cybersecurity, and I think to a large extent, it's a question which everybody keeps talking about. It's a question which is deliberated in courts very often as well, because of the level of scams that we are facing at an exponential rate. And if you're talking about exports and exports to increase, Indian products to become world popular, there's going to be a requirement for such products or such a sense of belief for foreign investors to feel that India is a secure market. India has taken care of the cybersecurity in a way which is most efficient for foreign investors to also feel that yes, they can work along with us. Now, I go by some of these test case examples which are very relevant, which for a growing economy like ours. If you look at Hong Kong as an example, what they have done is they have done two things very well, which we can take examples from. Point number one is that there is a synchronization of the security requirement under various laws to ensure that they're all at the same level. Right now, the bottleneck is the RBI will say one thing, SEBI will say the other, DPDP will say the third thing. The lack of synchronization keeps a company rather confused, right? And because of which the compliance becomes a task, and the response from that compliance to ensure the security levels are good also becomes an equally big task. Now, if going forward, because we are looking at overhauling acts, overhauling provisions very often, and I think this government has been very, very candid to do so. If we look at this as an attempt to synchronize this, it would go in a long way. And secondly, I think the industries need to be categorized into sensitivity of the nature of crimes that it can detect. Now, for an example, if you are looking at cases of just loans and lending don't require surveillance all the time, right? So they could have a two-step verification which could permit, and which is actually happening even as on date, that permission for that authentication to take place and ensure that the industry is secured. But if you are looking at, say, a lifetime cryptocurrency, which deals with transactions on a second-to-second basis, then there is a requirement for monitoring to happen in lifetime. And on the nature of the sensitivity of the risk involved, countries like Hong Kong have ensured and deployed the security ambit on the basis of its risk involved. So I think going forward, that is something which needs to be debated, that is something which needs to be discussed, and that is something which needs to come forward to ensure and give that kind of a sense of belief. Third and fourth, and I'll keep it very short because I understand there are lots of wonderful dignitaries here to speak, and I'm sure there are lots of debates to happen other than what I have to say. Two short points which I wish to leave you guys pondering about is the third one being about the MSMEs. And I had the good fortune on doing some data analysis on MSMEs as well. MSMEs in a country like ours firstly struggles with the number of over-regulation that it has to face. And because it is deployed with more than 35 lakhs of compliance on an annual basis, where will it have the money to freely act? I think that is something which the government is anyway looking at. And I think, again, examples of neighboring countries, we don't have to go Southeast Asia, not too far. We have to go to Singapore and say a single day is required for ensuring that a company comes under one, starts functioning. So that's point one. Point number two is that for MSMEs in India, we need to look at the fact that how most of its funds get stuck in its working capital, get stuck in for delayed payments. Now, fintechs actually have a huge role to play in that also. How? They have a huge role to play because in the Western countries, if you say have a working capital of say 100 rupees, you can raise money of 50 rupees out of that from that working capital as long as the payment is assured and the payment is good for its money and it's not like bad debt. So I think, innovating in the fintech industry to ensure to have products to help your other peer companies is something which will go in a long way to help these MSMEs sustain. And I think because we are thinking about innovation, we are thinking about how to bring in the next step forward. I think these are the few things which are relevant. And lastly, and I think arbitration, my senior peers would actually enlighten you a lot more on this, but from my limited understanding, I think the partners that you are talking about here, SIAC, is the best case example of how arbitrations need to function across the globe. SIAC has arbitration awards upholding from 99% and above. And the reason why Singapore does a lot better than any other countries is because the arbitrations are institutionalized. By institutionalizing them, you're ensuring that only experts are talking about it. You're only ensuring that the people who are working in that industry are very, very core to that industry. And when I say this, I speak to somewhat against myself because, we co-litigators also, we work in courts, we want to do arbitration, we have our hands dipped in everywhere. But I think going forward, the future is where arbitration is institutionalized and experts are onboarded for, let's say, fintech disputes, where the person who is resolving your dispute is wary of what a fintech dispute is like. What are the nitty-gritties of it? And I don't think a lot of people in courts in general are aware of it. So you would need more and more experts to be roped in to, look at certain specific industries, be it expert arbitrators or be it expert lawyers. I think these are the few moot points of discussion and thoughts which I thought are very, very relevant. And I think, and I'm extremely grateful for providing me this opportunity again. I hope I could make some sense, and I hope these thoughts could resonate at some level so that we can look at a brighter future in 2047 with a much more robust industry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your insights into fintech regulations and judicial reforms are deeply valued. May I now invite Dr. Pradeep Rai, Chairman, India Legal Research Foundation and India Legal Aid Center, a distinguished senior advocate, author, and reformist, voice in constitutional and commercial law. Dr. Rai has dedicated his life to access to justice.
Mr. Ravi Sikri ji, Senior Advocate, Mr. Ajay Singh, Tarvinder Kaur, Barun Singh, Imtiaz Bhai, Rukhsar Madam, because of whom, despite being a busy Friday, even she could brought Mr. Sikri here. The organizers, the Services Export Promotion Council. In the age of AI, India is actually a country where 3 centuries run together. Within the 60 kilometers of radius of this capital, you will find a bullock cart, a tanga, you will find a bus overloaded or a truck which is a driver is driving without license, and you will also find a Mercedes car. You will find several other amenities. In such a situation, how to deal with it? Our country is progressing. Our country is making a way forward. Fortunately, I am chairman of Private International Law Committee of Indian Society for International Law. So whenever I try to deal with the issue, I find it really very difficult that how to educate the people. Recently, Supreme Court is considering a case of digital arrest. They have taken suo motu cognizance. Now, a pensioner who has retired 30 years back or 20 years back, he gets a call that share your PIN code from a bank, or he gets a message. How he is educated, how well he is educated, how can he handle this? If you want to deal with such a situation, then you have to educate people. And the education is not only based like a training of internet or something, websites and all, because most of the villages don't have electricity. They have sometimes like 4 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. Even Noida, which is the one of the renowned and most valuable industrial hub, you will find electricity cut. We stay in New Delhi area, there also sometimes there is a power cut, maybe for a minute, but there is a power cut. So ultimately, first of all, we have to be ready with infrastructure. If we are not ready with infrastructure, we can't deal with such a situation. And then training parts come later. And also there is a law. Internet is fundamental right. This was held in Anuradha Bhasin's case. That all the citizens, they should not be blocked and they should have the internet. At the same time, we have K.S. Puttaswamy, where right to privacy is equally important. Now, there is a conflict between these two. Whenever you go and buy, how they grab you? Whenever you go and buy something in a shop, they will say, sir, there is a package. If you fill this form, you may get a lottery. And lottery may be worth 100 rupees or 200 rupees something. And many of us, just by chance or like fun, or they just fill the form. Some of them may really be interested, and they may be finding themselves lucky that if we fill, we may succeed. But many of us just feel like that. Your phone number, your email ID, and your everything, that is out. And data is sometimes sold, sometimes leaked, and sometimes deliberately shared with several other persons. So ultimately, data privacy is also equally important. I am coming to the financial technology, other things. But unless we have the protection within the bounds of these parameters, it's really difficult for all of us to deal with such a situation. And then comes the cooperation part. Because international society or all the other countries, like Budapest, this convention was for cyber security, in which India is not a signatory. Because they wanted us to share the data, and to protect the data, we did not agree. So ultimately, our purpose is data protection. At the same time, we are giving Aadhaar everywhere, we are giving our numbers everywhere, we are giving our email IDs everywhere. And how to deal with it? Is there any restriction? And at the time of constitutionalism, where we all, though we are sitting in India and having the Indian passport, but we all are global citizens. And most of us are dealt with, like even Google is not ours. Any activity you do, any software you use, you find yourself that you are subject to some of the software or hardware which does not belong to India, having some international border. Recently, this one software company, they blocked their own software, and because of that, several airlines were delayed. They could not fly. Even in the wartime, France blocked some Rafale software, and we could not actually use it at the time of use. So there should be some responsibility, liability, some respect of the contract, and contract also having these three categories. Like one category is the general contract, where you just go to a shop, there is some vendor, is the electronic vendor is there, you know the rates, you put the money, you get the things back. In the other places where you go, some codes are there. By code you are buying something or selling something, that is some special contract. But ultimately at the time of AI, if there is some breach, there is no remedy so far. The only remedy is awareness. The only remedy is the taking care of it. And then the cooperation from suppose somebody is looting your money from Kenya. Like India is also one of the most notorious places. Jamtara, Nuh, and this Bharatpur, they all are very well known for all these activities. And the persons indulge into it, they are not educated people. Most of them are 4th fail, 5th fail, forget about 10th fail. So many of them are like this. So primarily the problem is that when you enter into such activity, recently now this Agarwal Sahab, Sunil Agarwal ji is here. He is also one of the member in private international law committee with me. We had a program recently. And when you issue summons, okay, please. He is lucky because he has made a deal with them that he should speak first and he can attend the court. Only we are the hostages.
I second you.
So, when you issue summons, the summons has to be honored because India is the signatory of several international treaties in which we have agreed that if we issue summons or we proceed, we will cooperate. So many of the times, we find that there is some impediment created and countries do not cooperate because citing their own laws. If you want some extradition from the UK, you may not get it because they will say your prisons are not good. Nowadays, even they raise fingers on judiciary, they say your judges are very honest, we have seen. We are not going to give the accused persons to your place. So some of the conditions are there. I referred a matter of 1695, when there was a vessel known as Gajwai-Hind, owned by Aurangzeb, because most of the rulers' sisters were the number one business entity, like commerce minister, current commerce ministers. So Roshan Ara was the commerce minister then, in that sense, because he was the biggest banker, richest ladies, like Jahan Ara was also richest lady. Despite Aurangzeb's times, he was allowed to do all the business. So when they were looted by a group of pirates belonging to the UK, Aurangzeb issued summons to the UK authorities that produced them. They did not agree. They said, no, we are a sovereign nation. You can't direct us. Aurangzeb said, okay, if you are a sovereign nation, we are blocking your entire business from our sea, and any of your citizens, if found in our territory, they will be executed. Fearing on this, they agreed. They hanged 21 pirates who were indulged into this. And they say, you send a person who can come and participate in the process of our judicial process. They can see that how we are dealing with it. And ultimately, after hanging, he wrote a letter that we have hanged now and I seek harmony. But that was the medieval age. Now in modern age, our laws should be such, which should be having a kind of harmony with each and every country. There are some issues where we all agree. You will not even Taliban, they are also trying to have the rule of law. They also want to govern their nation with the best of their ethics. When you want this, then obviously you should agree on certain common minimum laws on which each and every country should be dealing with it. Like even suppose terror law. Then they will say that what is the definition of terror? My terrorism is different, your terrorism is different. At least there should be some points where we all should be agreed. Law should be there to fuel the business. It should not be to block it. And ultimately, we are not the nation where we provide so many government jobs. We cannot provide business opportunities to the public in general. Most of the citizens of the nations of the third world, they are trying to find out their own way. And what we have to do? We have to work on education, we have to work on health sector and infrastructure. If we are granting these three, nobody is asking any job from you. But you do not give us education, you do not give us health facilities, you do not give us infrastructure, and then you say that we are actually having so many problems. Give us some this problem-solving ability, and ability is education. So all this technology and all the things are there, but at the era of AI, artificial intelligence, where we all will find, you see, there was no law for drones in the capital. Few drones flew over the house of Prime Minister, they came with the guideline. They realized that there is a threat perception. Ultimately, many laws evolve from time to time with the developments of the society and with the development of technology. We should be open to that idea. We should not be the last person to follow it. The time is coming when each and every household will have a drone, sending their drone to the shopkeeper or the facility from where they are going to buy something, and the drone will reach there, they will load it there, you will be online, you will be transacting, things will be delivered. On many restaurants, you will find AI robo is serving you. Are we ready for it? Within 5-6 years, it's not, technology is growing so fast, within 6 to 10 years, you will find complete evolution in the society. In such a situation, are we ready? We as students of history, we did not even try to go to the computer rooms those days when we were studying. When for the first time I learned how to switch on and switch off the computer, that was the greatest success. I claimed everyone that now I know how to switch on and switch off. Now you see what the kids are doing, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, they know each and everything. Some of them, if you don't give them cell phone, they will not eat even food. Many families I have seen. So technology is there. We all have to work together. Time is less. And I can see Ravi Sikri ji and the lucky Barun Singh who left. I can say only one thing, that we all have to work on it. It's very great step that you all thought together to come with an idea to have a conference like this, on which we all can mull over and think that how and what should be the future of fintech laws. Many financial companies are facing cases. Forget about NCLT, NCLAT, and all these, that I am not going there. But technology is strengthened, and if there is a proper security feature, the cyber offenses, the crimes will be less. And we should not shy. I will give you one example. Recently, a ship, a vessel from the Vietnam came to Odisha. I was appearing for them. Now this matter is over, so I can share. The captain of the ship found some drug substances on the ship, and he thought that it's not fair. He immediately informed the authorities. He took all the due precaution. Customs and police, they came. They seized the substance. They cooperated. They only mailed and informed. If they had not informed, nothing would have happened. Because of their information, when the authorities came to know that something is found at the vessel, they forfeited the vessel. They arrested the captain of the ship. They detained everyone. What is this? Ultimately, Supreme Court released, and whatever, I do not want to go into it, but there should be some kind of business-friendly laws. And honesty should be given priority over everything. If somebody is doing something with the honest and good intentions, that should be honored. And ultimately, Madam Rukhsar, because of you, all these people are stuck. And yes, yes. So thank you so much to everyone, and may God bless you for such a wonderful program. I appreciate your patience and time to hear this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Just for your notice, before you arriving, Noida was a hot topic that we were discussing. May I now invite Mr. Ajay Singh, Head Technology and Innovation, Austrian Embassy Commercial Section. Ravi, sir, I'm keeping the best for the last.
Good morning. I understand you keep the best for the last, right? Good. So I will be very brief. My name is Ajay Singh. I am responsible for technology innovation at the Austrian Embassy's commercial section here. And when we got the invitation to speak on law, fintech, I was a little bit skeptical how it's related with the embassies, with the companies, but it's the one of the direct relation what we can have with the companies. So our job and responsibility to help and support Austrian companies establishing themselves in India, neighboring countries. And many companies are looking forward to having their technology innovation to India, but what they don't realize, where we support them, that to have the IP protection, have all the compliance, and also to, cruise through the India's very, very critical compliance system, where companies are very stuck for 1 year, 2 years, they don't have certification, they don't have the compliance. And then it's very crucial and important to have this kind of collaboration where we have companies or organization which can be facilitated, which can be taken care for our companies. And India especially, we have a lot of compliance. I mean, Europe also have a lot of compliance, GDPR to IP protection to all the data protection will. And in Europe, you see, it's a very strict regulated environment, and that is why Europe is most of the time is stuck with its own compliances. So having too much compliances also is not a good idea, but having a relaxed environment where compliances, companies, countries can flourish together. This is what we are looking forward. This is what we try to achieve with this. And of course, I'm always exposed to too many technologies, and fintech is one of the area where I would like to maybe take a couple of minutes. So in fintech, there is one company I can give you an example. It's a real example. we have an Austrian company called Gold Invest. They sell precious metal, gold, silver, and many kinds of precious metal. And 2 years back, they contacted me that they wanted to analyze the Indian gold market in the digital infrastructure. And they have this thinking that, India loves to use UPI and all those of already free, giving a tough competition to MasterCard and Visa. And why do you need to tie up your economy with gold or your personal wealth with gold? Then I invited them to India on a fact-finding mission, and we took them to Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, and all sorts of hottest spots in India. And this is their finding. After the visit, they found that the most gold is not in the banks. The most gold is not at home. It's with the 50% of the population, which is women. Women in India have the most gold possession. And they are, it is not, let's say, documented or there is no specific number, but in the entire world, Indian women have most gold. Only thing is, because of our cultural and religious and emotional sentiment, we don't see gold as a currency. We don't see gold as sometimes it's considered very bad to sell gold. If you have to sell gold of the house, it's not a good thing. Then this company came to India. They learned that, okay, this is so much wealth, and this is so much wealth which is owned by the women in country, but it is not tied up with the currency. So they created this new concept, it's now everywhere, to have a MasterCard kind of card which has a gold related. So your gold, which you own, the company doesn't take it, you own the gold. They link this with the MasterCard kind of solution, and the value of your wealth is also increased. So if you have 1 lakh rupees in your fiat currency, which is again 1 lakh, and but if it is linked with your gold, you can expect the massive return which we expected in last 1 year. So there are some innovation which is going on. There are some innovation in fintech, of course. There are some innovation, but obviously it should be regulated. It should be having a support kind of, not the shutting down or winding up companies because they can't compliance. But I think compliance should be relaxed, and we have wonderful fellow panelists who spoke about it. So I won't take much time. I would like to also invite on the call to action. So India, of course, is the largest fintech revolution, and we have this UPI, which is going to be it is already a market changer. But Europe is already depends on still in the credit cards, cash. When I go to Austria, when I go to any of the European country, they expect me to spend by card. I don't use this because last 10 years I have not went to any ATM. Last 10 years I have not went to any bank to rectify my account problems. No, I don't need it with just a cell phone. Only thing when we get buried, it's our cell phone is out of battery. Otherwise, we don't need it. So Europe in this fintech environment actually can learn and is still learning from India how so many people without paying any transaction fees, you can actually buy 10 rupees to 10,000 or 10 crore, anything from UPI, and how this UPI infrastructure actually created the impact. So there is a lot of learning from both sides, and compliance, regulatory, fintech, legal, everything very much related. With that, I would like to say thank you to the organization. Thank you to the organizer to invite me for this, putting my thoughts and views on this fintech and law seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ajay Singh works at the forefront of India-Austrian trade, digital innovation, and regulatory cooperation. Thank you, sir. May I now invite Mr. Ravi Sikri, renowned personality and senior advocate, Supreme Court of India.
Good morning, everyone. Unlike my previous speakers here, I would like to, first of all, as I said, it's mine. Yes, thank you. So unlike my previous speakers here, who actually made a broader, rather overall insight of what happened, as Dr. Rai said, Mr. Ajay Singh also pointed out here, I'm going to confine myself here into broadly three things, because the agenda which was given to me was actually I'm going to base my introduction or about the event which we are here focusing is only on primarily three things, which I have divided into. One is the introduction, and other is risk and role of regulations, and the third is solutions. These are the three parameters. And before I get into this, I thank of course, the distinguished here who are present, respected policymakers and industry leaders, my learned colleague at the bar, Senior Advocate Dr. Rai. And I also must say, I may be busy in the morning, because you have busy hours. He's busier than me, and if not less. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to address this esteemed gathering on this congregation at the moment where we are standing at the forefront of transformative era in finance. Financial technology, or fintech, refers to the use of technology to innovate and improve financial services and processes. It encompasses new business models, applications, products, and transform how financial transaction, management, and governance can be conducted, making them faster, accessible, and more efficient. It includes services such as mobile payment, digital lending, as Mr. Ajay said, that mobile payments today, you don't have to visit banks. It includes services such as blockchain applications, automated investments, platforms, fundamentally reshaping financial system overall. Fintech is today deeply embedded in everyday's life, with UPI enabling seamless payments, digital wallets handling daily transactions, apps enabling access to the stocks and insurance market. So overall, it's almost covered almost all the fields, what we are talking about, what we are living with. India's dynamic fintech system is not only redefining financial access, but reshaping the jurisprudence of economic governance growth. India has emerged as a global leader with hundreds of millions of fintech users given by Aadhaar, UPI, digital infrastructure, and has transformed inclusion for the unbanked population. So really, we are looking at the population which is not really looking at the banks, it's unbanked, thanks to all fintechs, digital, which we are witnessing, a rapid growth. With the fintech market projected to grow from approximately USD 145 billion in 2025 to over USD 550 billion by 2030 at a compound annual growth rate exceeding 30%. I must admit, when I was going through this, I looked into it. When I was actually saw, I cross-checked, because this is such an impressive figure. It's actually mind-boggling, from USD 145 billion 2025 to 550 billion in the span of merely 5 years. That's very impressive. And I also must add here, everyone has to pitch in for this. I'm sure everyone is going to contribute. This, because of everyone's contribution, it is going to achieve that very impressive target, if I may say so. So we are witnessing not merely an expansion, but a structural recalibration of the nation's financial architecture. Now, the second thing, what follows is today that, again, we have to think from the legal point of view, is risk and roles of regulations. Fintech promises efficiency, inclusion, accessibility, yet it unleashes no legal risk, data insecurity, regulatory fragmentation, weak consumer protection, and unclear accountability. We cannot afford unchecked growth that undermines stability. The law must balance fostering innovation with imposing discipline oversight. It must evolve as a constitutional spine that sustains this rapid innovation with accountability and ethical governance. Fintech companies process vast amount of personal and sensitive data. We all know this is a very personal and sensitive data, and I've come across certain cases also so far, of course, dealing with the police, where they get into because of being very, very, very highly sensitive data is here. The unprecedented scale of data processed, stored, monetized, possesses high in risk, requiring comprehensive data protection laws for effective governance and redressal. The Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 and Digital Personal Data Protection Rules 2025, we love to call this DPDP and DPR in short, which have come into force recently on 14th of November 2025. The rules have been just nominated on 14th of November 2025. I'm sure all of you are more aware than I am because you're in the total field which is totally concentrating on this fintech. Now, it has a window of 18-month phase compliance. So it's not mentioned the time, but if we roughly calculate, it comes to somewhere, May 2027. So we have 18 months of compliance to put our, system in order. So it rightly imposes rigorous obligations concerning data consent, limitation of purpose, mandatory retention, and erasure, as also secure processing. Now, see, this has come, as Dr. Rai rightly said, that law constantly evolve to match changing social and technology field. So this has really, which we were all waiting for this law to come, it is taking shape. But of course, as I was going through yesterday in my notes, that the board still has to be constituted, then tribunal would be followed. So, and after tribunal is going to be the Supreme Court. So these are the three, way it's going to go ahead when in terms of when some litigation or complaint comes. Now here I would like to mention the two sections which are prime and which are very important when we talk about DPDP Act. So the first section which is there is section 27. So now section 27 empowers the Board Data Protection Board to take immediate, remedial, and mitigations measures against data breaches, and also inquiry into breach of obligation by companies. That's one which is quite relevant. And the other one is section 33 of the Act, again DPDP Act. When I say Act, it's DPDP Act. That's, again, to make it myself more clear, is that's Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So what section 33 defines that? It imposes strict monetary penalties, which is, again, something to look into, extended to hundreds of crores for breach of obligation and non-adherence to the provisions of the Act and the rules. So these are two things which need to be always remembered when we are, we have to adhere to the DPDP Act or DPDP-R. So even with the rigorous obligation, compliance remains reactive, as rightly pointed out, that it should not be reactive, as Dr. Rai said, that it should not be. We must, instead of making reactivated, we should be, have to have pre-measures before actually getting into this. So exposing companies to penalty, lawsuits, and reputational harm. When it's reactive, it will definitely expose companies to all these hindrances. Even so, reputational harm is one harm which is, I'm sure, apart from paying penalty, apart from paying fine. So this reputation harm is, once goes down in the public eye, it's definitely going to affect a lot. So a significant hurdle to fintech firm is adhering to know your customer, which we call KYC and anti-money laundering, AML, norms and regulations. While these norms are essential for combating financial crimes, a lack of stringent adherence frequently compromises their efficacy, leading to potential regulatory penalties, a decline in public, as we say, confidence, damage to the institutional reputation. Again, public confidence and damage to the institutional reputation plays a prime role. The issue of consumer result also remains equally pressing. Transparency, access to grievance mechanism are not acts of corporate benevolence. They are statutory rights. When these channels fall, litigations and regulatory penalties intensify and reputation falters. Further, in the absence of coherent self-regulation within fintech institution, so we have to have those self-regulation and created governance voids, internal compliance framework, ethical code, risk governance structures are often sidelined in the race of the scale. This neglect transforms innovation into liability. So that's the result. If all these parameters have been avoided or ignored, then it will definitely going to have now into liability, which I'm sure nobody wants in today's world. Of course, it comes, then one has to take it, but one should always be looking forward to avoid that. Simultaneously, a merger and acquisitions have become central to growth strategy while offering scale and market expansion. They introduce legal risk in licensing, regulatory approvals, and due diligence integrity, strategic considerations. Without legal foresight, variety leads to systematic exposure. So, as it was pointed out by earlier, my speaker, Mr. Singh, as he mentioned that the arbitration is another way of looking at when the legal thing comes, and rightly so, when we talk about solutions. So, as I can see that we have association now, I'm calling, I'm part of, all of you, and I'm saying we, association with SIAC, and it's another one thing I would like to add is it's not only other benefit which was pointed out, but it's a faster remedy. When you talk about legal, the arbitration is one of the fastest to reach the conclusion. And that's why all these international companies are actually opting for that. And SIAC is one of the most reputational institutions. But of course, now in India and Delhi also, we have many good reputed, arbitration centers where even the arbitrators from outside are coming to India and doing arbitration cases here. So now, as we are talking about solution, I'll quickly, there are 3 points which I mentioned in solutions. The solution does not lie in stiffing innovation, but in intelligent, legal, harmonious, proactive and continuous compliance end-to-end audits, real-time monitoring, cyber assessments, and risk governance. So we have to keep these things. If we work on these parameters, we can actually lower down the risk, if not completely. The fintech sector must shift from occasional compliance to institutional compliance and anticipating future challenges rather than merely fixing past mistakes. As Dr. Rao said that yes, you have to prepare earlier, and that's always better. Immediate government action is also required to align all pertinent laws and regulations, resolve any inconsistencies, and devise a streamlined compliance framework. India needs a unified, adaptive regulatory ecosystem that fosters growth while reinforcing the rule of law. Innovation without legal discipline, one has to understand this, and there is no escape. Please take it from me, and there is actually no escape. So that's why I would again say that innovation without legal discipline creates chaos, and devise streamlined compliance framework. So one has to have this regulation without innovation. It stifles progress. India needs a unified, adaptive, as I've said. Now coming back to this, law plays a foundational role in achieving this balance. So one has to have the faith in insofar as the law is concerned. It really plays a foundational role in achieving balance by safeguarding financial integrity, which is essential for securing public confidence and maintaining institutional legitimacy. That's it, because I wanted to thank you very much. I wanted to broadly tell that these are the DPDP Act, which we should not be, in fact, now scared of it. All we have to do is to make legal required compliance from time to time, so the court, insofar as complaints, can be avoided and it can be worked in a very harmonious manner. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
One question, if you ask me.
Yes, please, sir.
You mentioned about the section 27 and section 33 of this.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Will not be there more litigation in the court? More litigation on the cases?
No, see.
Clarity,
I'm sorry.
Clarity, where will be the clarity that we define the regulations? There is a fault, there is a data breach. Right, you mentioned rightly, my data from the date of birth being circulated at the number of places.
Correct.
Who is at fault?
So,
who shared the
so,
data?
so,
Point number one. Just
okay.
And there are 3-4 type of penalties, like 250 crore for failing to implement, or 200 crore failing to DPP regulations for children and the data whose data I am using. If I am not informed the person whose data I am informing, or not informed to the DPP, then again up to 200 crore. Whose capital is 50 crore, how can we put penalty or up to 100 crore? Where is the defined that if you do this crime, this much will be penalized or this much will be penalty. You simply, in a vague form, you mention up to 250 crore, up to 200 crore, up to 50 crore, up to 10,000 rupees. So where is a definition that you do this crime? 550 crore or 500 or 50 lakh rupees will be penalized. So some clarity should be there. And now you are given the time 27, November 26, the companies, organization, they have to get ready for that. You rightly mentioned that.
So, may I now?
Yeah, please.
Yes. You raised three issues here. The first issue which you have raised is that you're right from the birth, or maybe I go a little further, maybe even your fathers.
Yeah.
So till now, see, this is, we all are facing this problem, and everyone, and rather we give our consent. When the moment it comes, you give your consent. But here in this act, actually protects one more thing. And what it does is, if you give your data, that is now in any case, as we are trying to stop by making it public, if you are giving, suppose, to a service provider, I say a telecommunication service provider. So there is a statutory limit. Earlier what was happening is the data is going to almost all the companies. That's what I could make out what you're trying to say. But now they have been stopped. So if we're talking about Amazon, Amazon is selling products for particular products. Now for that, it can't be sold to telecommunication, it's vice versa. So I'm looking at two service providers here. So if that is done, that will amount to breach. And then I will mix your second query also here, which is of course interconnected.
Yes, interconnected.
So if the breach is there, there's no guarantee. Sometimes it happens that leak can always take place. The data leak can always take place, and it happens all over the world. It's also those people who are into this business also always evolving. They are also becoming better and better. No matter how much crores, tons of money you spend on technology to make it foolproof, it does. So nothing is foolproof in today's world. So when you talk about 250 crores up to 250 crores is, so this law is still evolving. It will take some time, as we said, with the changing time. So then we are looking at the courts. Then we are looking at the courts also parameters. Let's say you say company is doing 50 crore business, you can't pay 250 crores, rightly so. But then one has to look at you also, the person who is there to claim. How much he has actually suffered insofar as his reputation is concerned. So it's not only the company which has to pay the maximum money. No, that they can, like, as you say, Fortune 500 companies, let's say some of their companies are, without naming anyone, I'm using a word, Fortune 500 companies. So let's say the Fortune 500 company comes, one of those, they can 250 crore, it's fine. Or you take it Apple, you take it Meta, the one who's up to Amazon, they're like, it's fine, 250. But now what happens is there are two things. One, as I said, reputation, public trust. So they are definitely going to contest. No, I'm coming on that.
Yeah.
So it's not that the company is big, so it has to be 250 crore.
Yes.
So then we look at the other side, look at the person, how much he's been harmed, how much, what is his status in the, in the society.
The valuation will be a big issue now.
Correct. But then straight away coming on the core issue is, then courts are going to, because when the new law comes, so you come with the judgments, you come with the parameters. As we were talking about NCLT and other courts, they were not, Act tells you to work under those guidelines, is a statutory act to do that. But to define those acts and to come to 250 crore to parameters where actually how much it should be done, are the courts which are going to help you, or the policy makers, they are going to. It's definitely, see, it's a beginning. It's just a beginning. And you take it from me, with my experience, all the acts, all the rules, they need to revisit. As we say, Constitution keeps, now it's stopped. Amendments have taken stop. But initially when it was new, the amendments takes place.
I thought you will say the May 27 will be further extended.
No, I'm not going, see, I'm no one, I can't predict that.
Yeah.
But still I feel that 18 months is a good period.
Dr. Rai rightly mentioned the sold leak or intentionally.
No, there are all kind of people, that, of course, that Dr. Rai has a great experience, and of course we know, I agree with him. But at the same time, with time, 18 months is maybe extended. It's up to the government to do that. If the companies are not prepared, and it can also always be done.
Just one line more.
Yes.
You mentioned about, you mentioned about the real-time monitoring. There is a RBI rule also. If anything is complained, 1930, anything informed. So RBI rule is there, RBI circular is there, this 2017 is there, where if anyone person is informing the bank, it's a bank responsibility to stop the payment. Okay, it's all, everything, all payment is now digitized. I know where my payment, wrong payment transaction have gone. The fraudsters who's...
So I can show you.
But the bank, they are not doing that.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your good name. I'm so sorry.
Girish.
Mr. Girish, I tell you, you can take my number, and I have my lawyers team who help me, assist me. Even I don't need to be there, and I'll make sure all these queries have been replied pro bono. You don't have to worry. So nobody is going to charge you for all this, because I know they are really pressed upon time.
One of the best subject I can say.
Anytime you can come to Dr. Ayaz. His office is even bigger than mine.
Thank you.
Everyone is I
No,
we
we
pay
are
respect to everyone.
I'm sorry I've taken a little extra time, but
Really excellent. I
Mr.
appreciate
Girish, very good.
Thank you.
best subject. Why not? Even it's a good subject. We have to learn.
It's very interesting.
Thank you to all our, thank you, sir. Thank you for your question. I'm sure the dignitaries will answer it personally. So before Dr. Pradeep Rai departs and before Tarvinder ma'am gives a vote of thanks, I would like to inform the dignitaries and the participants that the Finno Legal is an initiative taken by 4 of our young employees working in SEPC. Ma'am, now I would like Tarvinder ma'am, Senior Director, SEPC, to please give a vote.
Once again, a very good morning to everyone and people sitting on the dais, off the dais. Thank you for coming up. This is a very interesting topic. And before I say anything, I tell you all the apologies from our Director General, Dr. Abhay Sinha. He has gone for an event abroad and half of the team is there and some people are working here. So sorry for his absence. And this is the flagship summit of SEPC on Finno Legal Convergence, focusing on building India's legal fintech edge. Apt topic, as fintech sector could intermediate 15 to 20% of India's estimated 1.6 trillion cross-border flows in 5 years. This is the estimation. In this context, this is the apt time to have such kind of an event. First session, as we'll begin soon, is on building trust in the AI-enabled area. Though Sundar Pichai just recently said that fintech AI bubble might burst up. That was his statement. He gave this statement. Still, AI is very relatable, and I would say more to people of my age. We didn't have computers, we didn't have mobile, so we all understand what's happening now. And deep thought process is needed, or say we require a multifaceted approach for this digitally centered and human-centric design to be developed, basically. This is where we think of RegTech. RegTech provides solutions that leverage advanced technologies to manage regulatory obligations more efficiently manual, traditional processes also. Cloud computing, blockchain that have already been mentioned, they are very safe, flexible, and cost-effective. So when we talk of AI, we take these things along with us. And when we talk of risk, we cannot leave LEI. The legal people are aware that LEI was created after 2008 financial crisis. I hope I'm right. So this was to increase the transparency and enable better tracking of all the counterparty risks that are happening in the global financial system, I would say. And session 2 is going to focus on all the data breaches, LEI, escrow, legal audits in fintech. And then the cyber law was evolved. That was the year 2000. That was evolved. All the great lawyers are here. I did not tell the year. And 2000, when cyber laws came up, and this is your answer, we constantly evolve. A law comes, and then things changes. Cybersecurity came up. They had to make a law for it. Post-lunch, we are dealing with a very crucial topic. You must be there to attend it. It is dealing with the various compliances on cross-border fintech and various regulatory perspective of different digital currencies, including the cryptos. And this is the time of AI, but as I said, Big people are warning, be careful, take care of the laws along with it. But very recently, I read in the newspaper, SBI Chairman Shri Sethi ji called for National Financial Grid. That's going to connect the credit bureaus, all registries, eKYC facilities, UPI, and other account and legal aggregator systems, arguing that such an integrated approach is important. It is the backbone which is essential to be maintained before we move on to the next phase of financial growth of India. With these words, I'm keeping it short. We're already running late for Rukhsar is watching me. I once again welcome all of you to a very charged platform, charged topics, so be there to listen to it. And I must ask the 4 management trainees to please stand if they are around. We have Mr. Pappu, Aditya, Uddesh, and Ayush. There's one more who is outside. These are the 4 young. They should come here perhaps, otherwise you'll be lost later on. Can you call Ayush also? So, no. These are the 3 and there's one more. Ayush ko bulana jaldi se. He's not there. Okay, so they are the 4 management trainees, young professionals who joined us very recently. It is their idea from the scratch to planning to calling people, they're pulling us, but we try to keep them away, do it yourself, and they have done it. So a big round of applause for them. So thank you so much for coming, and let's start the session, and thank you dignitaries for taking out time. Thank you so much.
I would request the dignitaries 2 minutes because we are going to have a FinBridge launch, which is a newsletter focusing on fintech and legal regulatory frameworks. Yes. It's a digital launch.
Just 1 minute.
Yes.
It's a new magazine that these kids are coming up with.
Yeah.
So after this, they're going to have a magazine quarterly journal on that. So that is the FinBridge series.
It's a digital launch because we are talking about fintech and legal.
So congratulations once again.
Yes, save paper, save
It will
energy.
be circulated to embassies, missions, Indian
Save environment.
government everywhere. MSME is going to have a big outreach. Let's have a group picture.
Can we have, okay, digital. So can you share?
We'll be
Yes,
sending
we will send you
link
the
to
call.
everyone. Chandranshu.
Chandranshu sir, I would request Chandranshu sir to be on the stage, please.
Pappu.
After a group picture, I would request Tarvinder ma'am to please present memento to our dignitaries. Ayush nahi aaya.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi sir, for being here. It was a pleasure having you with us. So your email ID and your number will be provided, so ensure to give a pro bono advice. Pradeep Rai sir, thank you sir. It was a pleasure hearing you today. Mr. Ajay Singh. So at SEPC, we focus on international collaborations. Thank you for being here and letting us know how important India-Austrian collaboration can be. Thank you. We will now begin with our session 1, Smart Regulations for Smart Payments. The theme revolves around smart regulations for smart payments, building trust in the AI-enabled fintech era. For this, I would like to invite the session chair, Mr. Dipendra Bhamra, co-founder and CEO, Lexi Money. Thank you, sir, for even being our knowledge Dipendra Bhamra is the co-founder and CPTO of Lexi Money, where he heads innovation in financial technology and product development. His work reflects a passion for building accessible, user-centric financial products. Mr. Pratik Gautam, Senior Vice President, Sales, PayPrint. Mr. Pratik Gautam serves as a Senior Vice President, Sales at PaySprint, driving business growth and strategic market expansion. His leadership has contributed to scaling fintech adoption across diverse user segments. So can I please ask you all to take your respective seats, please? Mr. Pranav Narang, Associate, IIFT CTIL. Mr. Pranav Narang is an associate at IIFT CTIL, working at the intersection of law, trade, and international policy. His work demonstrates strong analytical acumen and commitment to academic policy excellence. I would also like to acknowledge PaySprint for being our knowledge partner today. Ms. Nikita Bhatia, founder of Venture Easy. Ms. Nikita Bhatia is the founder of Venture Easy, a platform dedicated to helping startup and business with compliance, registration, and documentation. Her leadership reflects a commitment to simplifying and enabling smoother business growth for emerging ventures. Ms. Sheetal Swane Kapoor, Chief Regulatory Officer, Amazon Pay. I think she could not make it, but she's a knowledge partner. The Amazon Pay is a knowledge partner as well. I would request the session chair to now begin with the session. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Dipender. Just small intro, what we are doing on the export space. I am building a company which basically is for the Indian exporters primarily. We looked at the exporter space and we thought that, the exporters are still doing their stuff on Excel files and there's a lot of paperwork, and there is a delay in payments. So to solve this, we are building an AI-powered platform, and I know AI is the buzzword, but that's what we are using. So we're building a platform wherein we solve for the pre-shipment, post-shipment document compliances and reduce the payment delay risks for the exporter, and then eventually we also solve the payment issues, the collection issues for the exporters. So this is what we are trying to build. I, along with my co-founder Ankush, who's sitting here, we are building this platform. And I thank SCPC for, I think, bringing together some great experts. We had a good first session, very interactive, so I'll try and keep this session interactive as well. I think the goal for this session would be to look at the current landscape, as well as it's a very forward-looking theme, so probably we'll have some future insights and how people think and how our panel thinks on it. So I'll come to the first question, and that's related to the theme, which is smart regulations for smart payments. So and opening up to the panel, what do you think about what smart payments or what smart regulation is? What do we mean by a smart regulation? The word smart is very subjective, so probably we can open up and take your viewpoint on it. So any of you want to take it up?
Sure. Hi, good morning, everyone. Coming from the fintech background, we deal with millions of transactions on a monthly basis, whether it pertains to verification, whether it pertains to payments. So if I talk about smarter regulations, for us, it means, first of all, be able to do real-time reporting of all the transactions, right? Being able to identify and bucket them into safe, unsafe, or fraudulent and non-fraudulent transactions, right? These are some of the most important things that we have to look to when we begin with. Second point is verified data sharing with different sources in the present in the ecosystem. For example, if you talk about the payment ecosystem, right, we are not a PSP ourselves, but we do work with a lot of them, such as PhonePe and Paytms of the world, and they have huge databases of all the fraudulent activities which are happening across the country, right? That could pertain to the fraudulent VPAs, the geotagging of locations from where a lot of fraudulent activities are coming up. right? So the idea is to have interoperability amongst all these different players in the ecosystems. Could be PSPs, could be banks, could be NBFCs, could be the regulators themselves, right? And being able to leverage that data to make smarter decisions and to avoid frauds. So that is what these smarter regulations will allow us to do.
Right. Nikita, your take.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So, as I come from the audit background, I'm a chartered accountant. Here, I would like to highlight that the government is coming up with a lot of new regulations. Now, we need to understand whether these are smart regulations or not. What do you mean by them? So today, you can buy a 10 rupee pen from your smartphone, and you can also buy an 80,000 rupees laptop. So the kind of transactions we are making from our, with the use of tech, varies from, one point to the other. So regulations, having such regulations, the government is tightening a lot of laws. Recently, the RBI launched the digital lending guidelines. It has reformed, and given many directives on BNPL transactions and P2P lending. But are these regulations flexible? Are these regulations adaptable? That is what I think we need to look into, and that is what smart regulations should be. Such regulations that, focus on high-risk items. For example, depending upon the kind of transaction I'm making, if the compliance is such that it gives more vigilance on the transactions which are of high risk, and maybe can give flexibility on the transaction which are low risk, something like that. So if the regulations are made, and this is not something which the company or the fintech's company, can do by themselves. This is something which the government in itself has to provide in their regulations. The variety or the flexibility that you can have in your compliances, whether it is KYC compliance, whether it is monitoring, whether it is giving flexibility to the lenders, while doing their compliance, while giving them loans, will depend upon the history of the customer, might depend upon the kind of transaction they are making. So this is what I look at. Smart regulations for smart payments, which are varied in nature, not just restricted. Not something which you say is flat. Not something which you can say is applicable all across the sector, because we have a variety of players in the market and a variety of transactions in the market.
Right. Pranav, before you take up this question, probably you can also throw some light. Like she said, there are certain things that the government has to do in smart regulations. So the technology and the regulations, they don't grow or they don't evolve at the same pace. So probably you can highlight something on that front also, and just highlight what is smart regulations.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, coming from a background with trade law, I would say I'm not very competent to answer all the questions, but I will try to make my points on this, not as coming from a government. Comments coming from a government that everyone should note that this should not be reported. The government are supposed to regulate, like considering the risk involved in certain transactions, financial transactions, be it digital transactions, or even a normal transaction where you go to the bank and the consumer want to be assured that their money is in safe hands.
Right.
So that's the basic concept why there needs to be regulation. But at the same time, there needs to be legal certainty. So for that, various government departments, whether it is RBI or Ministry of Commerce and Industry, do stakeholder consultation before making any regulation applicable. So that is the process which defines the efficiency of regulation. If you are not listening to your stakeholders, then it will bound to have some some gaps.
Right.
So that's the approach the government takes to ensure there are no regulatory gaps, and because it's in the interest of government also to have a good digital payment system, which will help in flourishing economy, not just domestic economy, but also help exporters to ensure their payments are delivered in time. So.
Right. Great. I think in the first session, we touched upon a lot about balancing, innovation with the regulatory things that are coming up, the laws that are coming up. So the question next would be, how do we balance this innovation with safety? So I think Mr. Varun Singh talked about over-regulation and under-regulation, like under-regulation creating chaos, right? And then Mr. Sikri also touched upon creating chaos when there is no law and the law is not evolving with the kind of technologies. We need real-time monitoring, etc. So how do we balance the innovation with safety? And how it is done, and probably you can bring up your backgrounds or projects and whatever you have seen so far. So share those insights. Anyone?
So earlier, Mr. Rai talked about an example of drones, right? When earlier there were no drone rules in Delhi, right? You could fly even over the Prime Minister's house, right? And then when the government realized, okay, we should put some rules around that, right? A lot of times our regulators, in fact, behave the same way, right? Earlier, Nikita talked about BNPL, buy now, pay later schemes, right? Digital lending, P2P lending, a lot of cards which were getting issued in the market, right? So the regulators allowed them to play out and see, in the name of product innovation, right, how things are happening in the market, how are the consumers adopting it, and whether it's in the benefit of the end consumer and the overall financial market or not, right? And then came the guidelines, which wrapped around all those things around regulations. It also, rolls back into the smarter regulations which you talked about earlier, that let's have the innovation, right? Because until and unless you don't let people try out different things, experiment with financial products, payments, right? You wouldn't know what are the possibilities. And then put a boundary around them that these are the rules by which you play, right? So these are some of the things which are pretty important, I believe.
So sorry, I'm just interrupting you. So probably would you, as a company who's trying to innovate, would you first innovate and then look at the, regulations around it, or you first see regulations and then see what can be done within it? So how is that? Because then you are stifling innovation. So that's the
Great
balance.
question. And I'm coming from the business side, so my answers are gonna, be slightly biased towards it.
Yeah.
So as long as the regulations, so whichever things regulations do not allow, we'll not try that. And anything which regulations probably do not talk about it, we'll try it and see.
It's a fine balance.
Yeah, it's a fine balance. We have to maintain it. So.
Find a gap.
Absolutely. It's a gray area, and a lot of times you have to play around that.
You have to find a white space in a gray area. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nikita.
Okay. Now, I think this is a really interesting topic with the kind of conversations that come up. So as, I'm sitting with a startup founder, right? Or maybe not a startup. Yeah. And this is a very rightly placed question that where do you put in compliance? So we have worked with a lot of startup companies. People start their business, they have all kinds of officers in place, handling different kinds of projects. They have automation and tools to handle the projects that are being dealt with. But there is no automation, or there is no use of AI, or there is no innovation on the compliance side of things. So this is something which I firmly believe that, yes, compliance should not stifle growth. Compliance should be there as an infrastructure, right, within which, like a framework within which you operate. Because when you work with compliance, then it helps in long-term sustainability, right? Otherwise, it's like a short-term vision, which is ultimately going to collapse. So when you start your business, why don't you have a compliance officer and also have your tech team, help the compliance officer create a system where all the regulations, where all the, where all the compliances are, integrated into one dashboard in which the company is not just dependent upon the auditor or a third party to advise them on several aspects, but they themselves are aware and they themselves have their checkpoints. I think it is very similar to the kind of business you are developing, the kind of product you are developing, where exporters have a dashboard in which they have the documentation, in which they have the compliances and also the incentives in one place. So this is applicable for the entire fintech sector as well, I believe, because definitely, the RBI is changing from being reactive to being proactive, and there are so many regulations to be kept in mind where even auditors need to upscale themselves. So it has to be a collaborative ecosystem where the auditors and the companies and the government work together, right? And this can, AI and automation can only amplify this. However, yeah, there are safety guards which has to be for on the use of AI as well, or automation as well. But it can definitely, so compliance, coming back to your original question, compliance should not stop innovation, but compliance should be integrated in such a manner, it should be inbuilt in such a manner that it amplifies your growth.
Right. I think what matters more is the intent. Right?
Yeah.
So you should not surpass the compliance with the wrong intent. Yeah, Pranav, please.
So I've heard compliance like several times. So yeah, like you said, like there is an intent. Like even from the government side, from RBI side, they needs to ensure the payment systems are driven by trust. There is trust element when it comes to payment system. Today, if I come across a news where there has been data breach by a certain payment service provider, then I will hesitate to use that platform. So trust is the central focus of
Right.
such sectors,
Right.
financial sectors. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we talked a lot about compliance, like you said. So, but since I'm building, he's building, right? So compliance tends to be a very, like a burden on small companies, right? It takes up a lot of cost if you are actually going and implementing it in your workflows in your products. So what is, how do we democratize regulatory technology and RegTech? Like any ideas on those, how could this be done? Because this is something which will, help small companies also at a lower cost implement compliance. So it's not only about knowing it, but also implementing it, right? So how do we do that? What are the things we can contribute to this? How can we democratize it?
So I have worked in two types of industries. One is banking, core banking, where I worked with Indian Bank and SBI, and now I'm in a startup where we have 100 people, right? So I've seen both ends of the spectrum. While we talk about banks, they have a huge compliance team, right? They have the money, they have the experience to deal with a lot of compliance issues. They have a lot of eminent people, learned people, knowledgeable people on the panel itself, right, on their payroll itself, so they can take care of the compliance. However, when it comes to the other side, right, when we talk about the fintechs or the new age companies who are trying to make a mark, or even the neobanks, right, who are trying to make a mark in the industry in a very short amount of time, right, the compliance could become actually a bottleneck, and that's very true. But I will say that there are plenty of new age RegTechs even which have come up, which have created products which are plug and play, right? You do not really need a 10-member compliance team or a 20-member compliance team just to monitor what's happening across the different regulators, RBI, SEBI, IDI, whoever is doing what, right? You definitely need to keep a tab of it, but there are plenty of products which automates your KYC processes, right? Fraud detection processes. They can seamlessly integrate with your existing ERP, CRMs, or whatever tools you're using to manage your customer database, onboardings, monitoring of transactions, right? I'll not name the companies, but there are plenty of good fintechs which are now, unicorns, which are into this industry, and they've been enabling technology for even the smallest of the players, right? Again, helping them identify frauds and risks at the earliest stage, rather than, developing and manifesting into something big, right, which could be business threatening. So there are plenty of products, as I said, which have been built on the KYC and ML front, which will help a lot of companies. Even we as a company build a lot of those products, and from a small new age NBFC to a digital lender to even a small logistics company use them to onboard their customers, their vendors, their riders, or whosoever, right? So that's something that definitely can be looked at.
Right.
Sure. So
Sure, you are in this area, so you have a lot to contribute.
So as Prateek rightly said, that creating small tools is a very good option for smaller companies. You don't have to do anything big or spend a lot of money on big, smart products. You can develop in-house tools which can greatly help. It's not just AI, it's basic automation which you can adopt. Even we have done it in our company. So like in Venture Easy, we support startups and companies entering India to streamline their businesses and set it up, which is not possible if we don't use tech as a part of our core systems, because that creates transparency, that creates, good ethics and provides confidence to the customer as well. So it's similar across the entire sector. On this note, I would just like to highlight one thing, that RBI has recently launched an initiative called Self-Regulatory Organizations for FinTech companies. I think that's a very wonderful initiative because it aims to create a repository, a body where all fintech companies can share their information in a confidential manner, which and also, provide their compliance reports. And when all of this data comes together in one single platform, which is, obviously headed by experts, that can help create, and it also has a lot of big players and industry participants. It will help, not only help create, it will actually help create smaller tools which can benefit startups and further fuel innovation. So I think the big players can actually support the, small startups by exchange of information and creating tools that can be used by the entire sector, the entire ecosystem.
Sure, I think SROs are a great example for that. Yeah.
So, I might have just got distracted a bit, but coming from a trade lawyer perspective, I think compliance burdens can also trickle down to consumers. So, because as a consumer of a payment service provider, I might have to bear the cost burden that is invested in ensuring the payment systems are smart. Like, I'm paying for the service. So, to that extent, digital public infrastructure, which has been developed throughout last few years, is a game changer, I would say, like at least for domestic economy. And going forward, I think like in our with our trade partners or with our prospective trade partners, we are engaging in a lot of initiatives to have more cooperative agenda for cross-border payment systems, specifically when there is requirement of interoperability with the foreign payment service suppliers. Because if I'm using an Indian payment system and EU-based payment system, consumer should receive that money through that interlinkage. So that is the crux of it. At multilateral level, at WTO level, there has been discussion, but there's little progress. So it's more concentrated toward bilateral engagement. Like, I think India, like the UPI and EU-based TIPS platform has been linked recently. There was recent news on that, like they had announced it. So it's a good development. It's a positive development. And I think like in terms of building capacity domestically, we need to engage with our trade partners so that there will be more exchange of information and exchange of how their payment systems work. Maybe they have better payment system. I'm not sure about. Because UPI is obviously has led the race in terms of digital payments, but in terms of cross-border payments, there's still a lot of progress needs to be, which affects exporters, like in not just goods, MSMEs and also the entities which are involved in digital trade.
Right. Yeah, so jumping onto the AI thing, because AI is the buzzword and everybody is talking about how AI can be leveraged. So according to me, my thoughts, AI basically without transparency and without explainability is just like an automated uncertainty and inefficiency, right? We are automating the uncertainties. So how can AI be? How can AI be made responsible, more transparent, so that every decision that is made is basically more visible to the regulators and the people, stakeholders, such that we can implement it very confidently and it can build trust in the entire system. So how can we do that? Yeah, how do we make AI basically more explainable? So probably you can,
Okay.
Nikita, you can take it on.
Okay, yeah. So yes, there are a few inputs, a few from the audit perspective, because as you said, how can AI be made responsible? Now, when you say how can it be made responsible, there are a few aspects that we need to look into. Yes, one, transparency. Second, accountability. Third, whether it is auditable, So we'll take it one by one. Transparency. So we are using mostly all the companies are using AI-driven systems or trying to adapt it. Are there any policies behind it? Are there any guidelines they are following on use of AI? And are these published in their website? How do I know that a decision made by a company or a step taken by a company is actually correct? Right? That's one thing. So I'm not sure if we have that policy in place, that it has to be published and it has to be visible to the consumers, to the auditors, to the stakeholders. But if not, yes, I think that is one aspect we should look into. The second is auditability. How do you make it auditable? If an auditor goes, first of all, he has to scale his team and scale his resources to be able to check that data in an appropriate manner. So the auditor's team first has to be made capable and given those tools, or they themselves need to adapt or build it in order to check the huge amount of data and the AI systems that have been created by the fintech companies. And second, is the auditor getting the right type of data? Is it biased or not? So bias-free data, diversified data, so that the audit can be conducted in a very, in a manner which is not clouded by judgment or which is not manipulated. And third, accountability. So I would close this by saying that AI should not be like a black box where we don't understand, the flow of transactions, what all factors have been taken into account while coming to a decision. The systems should be such, definitely, I think the company should have the liberty to go ahead and explore, and that is how, innovation will be fueled. But yes, it should be transparent, and it should be, something which a third party can understand, maybe in the long run, or should have the tools to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to take this on? Yeah.
Right. So picking on the point of the transparency, right, which Nikita talked about. So when I'm using, let's say, AI in transaction monitoring, I should be able to justify, let's say, why a particular transaction was declined. The AI should be able to justify what was the rationale behind,
Right.
declining a transaction, because every consumer would demand that. Similarly, a lot of our products are used by NBFCs or banks in lending landscape, right? So let's say if I am saying that this borrower is a bit risky, right? We should be able to explain, or the AI itself should be able to explain, why have you categorized this borrower in the higher risk category, right? So these are some of the questions which should be able to, should be answered when we are using AI-based systems to make decisions. Obviously, whenever we are talking about AI models, they are trained on certain data, right? That data could be pertaining to a bank, could be NBFC, could be legacy data as well. So there are plenty of high chances that there will be biases in the model itself, right? For example, it could categorize, let's say, earlier it was talked about Jamtara, Nu, and Bharatpur, like the high risk areas, right? There could be a genuine customer coming out of that region, but we could still put them in a red zone. Why? Because a lot of frauds are coming from over there. Right? So we should be able to explain that why was the reason, or the AI should be able to explain why the reason was taken in first place itself. right? And that's what brings me to second point, which is having a human in the loop for critical decision making, right? Because there are bound to be false positives when we are talking about AI. We are still not there yet, where 100% of the decisions could be made correctly with the AI-based models. So there has to be a human in the loop, especially for all the critical decision making. For example, whether of making a decision of giving, underwriting a loan, right, of passing a high-value transaction, and so on and so forth, right? So that's pretty critical from this point of view. I'll just give you an example, right? We were working with one of the largest insurance underwriters in the country, and what they wanted was to look at all the insurance policies which are coming from tier 3 cities, to look at all the applicants and tell me which of them are high risks. From high risk, they mean which of them could lead to a fraudulent claim of policy, right? Can you look at their data and tell me? Right, so we went ahead, we created a model for them which didn't just look at the credit history, but also at different other data points, which includes their social media history, their online history, the trends around their region, and so on and so forth. We built a model, we gave them a score that anyone who passes this score is most likely a credible guy. Anyone who's below this score will fall into the high risk category, right? So probably when we ran the test on the legacy data, right, and we found out that whichever people were identified as fraudulent in their historical data were actually tagged correctly by the model itself, right? That was with 98% accuracy. But 2% was still, missed out by the tool itself. So that's why we have to have a human in the loop to just cross-check, maybe have a basic checks also in the place to ensure that the AI is doing what it is supposed to do, and at least people who deserve or the transactions which are legitimate are passing through the system.
Great.
So with respect to use of AI in payment systems, I'm not sure about what is the RBI's approach right now. But yeah, like he has pointed about the bias risk, and also there can be other risk, legal risk also, cyber security risk. Maybe the AI system itself is susceptible to security risk. So in that perspective, there are international standards when it comes to maintaining those payment systems or any critical infrastructure. So in terms of ensuring wider participation for payment systems, these international standards needs to be updated every year. So yeah, so what we have gathered from our discussions in bilateral discussions, there is always a push for implementation of latest international standards, which might not be possible for some developing country to keep pace with such standards, because they could be lag of because the domestic industry needs to adapt to that standard. So that is one area where I think lot can be done in terms of building capacity, and I'm sure RBI is doing enough with the kind of digital public infrastructure that has been developed, which has 3 critical components, but there are safeguards around it. The critical components would be digital identity, digital payment, and digital exchange. So these are the very critical components of them, and there are security standards to ensure there's less data breach, but I'm not sure about how there are safeguards for bias within the system. That is something which the payment system itself, there needs to be self-regulation for that maybe.
Right. No, thank you.
At this point, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I would like to add, because Pranav raised a very valid point, that there are very complex international standards that are very much prevalent and which guide us on how to use AI and how to use tech. And some of these are especially the EU Act, the EU Act is extremely vigilant, and then we have the NIST, AI risk management from the US, and then we have ISO standards, but all of them are definitely very complex. And developing countries like ours may not be able to apply it completely. But the good thing is that, which I really wanted to highlight here, is that recently, I think last month itself, the Ministry of Information and Electronics and Information Technology launched directives on use of AI, which are far less complex, which are very easy to use, and which are more self-regulatory in nature. I haven't studied them thoroughly as yet, but I think it's a great news for fintech companies because the government here is trying to support innovation, but at the same time bring in some kind of regulation so that companies have guidance on how to use AI. So yeah, that's a very
Right.
welcome change.
Yeah, I think this needs global attention and global cohesion on this. Pranav, you talked earlier about cross-border trade and also like how there are payment delays and so in case of exporters, the collections take a lot of time. There are delays, and this is primarily because there are certain interoperability issues within jurisdictions, right? So how or what steps could be taken, to solve for this, and how can we reduce these interoperability issues? Any thoughts on those?
So my response to that would be like, because there are a lot of intermediaries involved when it comes to cross-border payments.
Yeah.
And there's a local bank involved, and then there is the payment system involved, and the banks are involved from both the countries, and then the final consumer, the final payee. So, in order to have more interoperability, there needs to be sharing, exchange of information between the relevant payment platforms, so that the lag which is there because of the involvement of entities can be reduced. It can be done through automation. It can be done through maybe developing APIs to have better connectivity, but because these are the sensitive areas for every payment platform, like why would they give access to their web? They want to maintain their monopolies. So the governments, they kind of engage in dialogues continuously. Through cooperation, they take soft obligations, which is always there.
And yeah, sorry, but I think the important point that you're highlighting is the importance of digital trust among countries and among governments. I think then
the central banks.
And if we need to solve it through technology, because we need it all real time, and we need to use technology for that. So probably technologies like blockchain and these technologies can solve it.
And the delay can also be reduced by having infrastructure development in a way, like because telecom infrastructure is core when it comes to delivering fast payment systems.
Right.
And within trade negotiations, we have certain commitments on providing access to telecom services to all service suppliers, to all sectors. So any payment system, if they want to deliver fast payment to a consumer here, which needs to be passed through other country, there needs to be better access to telecom network so that the communication lag is reduced as minimum.
Great. Anyone of you wants to contribute? I mean, we can keep it brief. I've got a note, keep it 5 minutes.
Sure. So I'll just probably, go back to my experience at the Singapore FinTech Festival last month, right? In fact, last month. So while we talk about cross-border payments, right, the delays, the different parties involved, the time taken to settlement and all of those things, a lot of fintechs outside India, obviously in India we are still, talking about it, but a lot of fintechs outside India, a lot of payments outside India are moving from fiat to crypto, right? Not just any crypto, these are stable coins, right, which are pegged against a currency like US dollar, so they're stable, that's why they're called stable coins, right? They do not go through that kind of a scrutiny which fiat goes through, right? And hence they allow faster payments to be done from one country to the other. Obviously, the question does come around the AML part of it. How do you ensure that these currencies, right, are not being used for AML? These currency are being, monitored by the government, and taxes are being filed appropriately, and they are being, captured in the system. Those are some of the questions which need to be answered for sure. And that's why our regulators have been conservative about it, because unless we don't have a clear, understanding of these products and a clear guidelines around these products, probably we'll still have some time, at least here in India, to see these things happening. But this is probably where the future of the cross-border payments lie, right, in terms of stable coins and maybe some other forms of crypto, or maybe something else which comes on top of blockchain, which you talked about, right, Dipender? So this is a very critical thing probably which we need to look at, and that's where the future lies. That's, at least in my opinion, that's where it is at.
Great. Okay, so I mean, just to continue what you were saying in the cross-border payment space, so what we are also doing at Legacy Money is trying to solve for the payment rails, so that the payment, the exporters can bring in their payments on the same day or the next day. So for that, we are taking a route which the government has taken an initiative in the GIFT City. So we are setting up an entity in the GIFT City, and probably we'll help bring exporter funds on the same or the next day in alternate payment rails apart from SWIFT. And in future, I mean, I have a vision of, if we can even use stable coins and pegged currencies to bring in and create a rail, so that, this is almost like a real time, and the visibility of payment is important. I think someone also earlier highlighted in the previous session about the working capital gap that the traders have. So this is also very important on that front. So bringing in payments real time is very important. So yeah, so this is what we are doing. I think we had some, we can wrap up the session now. We had some great insights by the panelists.
One question?
Yeah, sure.
My question is to Madam Nikita Bhatia and to Mr. Pranab. It is a common question. Anyway, I am J.K. Bhatti, GM from RISE under Ministry of Railways. Madam Bhatia, you have mentioned about RBI reactive to proactive artificial intelligence, and sir has mentioned about cross-border. So I am directly coming to my question. My question is, what regulatory frameworks are needed to balance innovation and risk management in AI-driven payment solutions so far as cross-border transactions are concerned? Starting from Madam Nikita Bhatia, and Mr. Narang can add on afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the question. So I think in cross-border payments, the government has already initiated cross-border UPI. That's one thing. Next, what I believe is that apart from the RBI initiatives, first of all, the countries need to cooperate and harmonize their rules. Because today, banks, a EU bank may not trust an Indian bank may not trust a UAE bank, frankly. Because rules are different, parameters are different in each country, and with each bank as well. So before we think of the journey ahead, right now, if we can only harmonize the rules, in my opinion, across the countries, for which, of course, first the governments have to cooperate at the first level, and then, if the banks can place trust with each other, or something like which the government is planning for fintech companies is to create a common regulatory body. If we can have something, a body which regulates or which can help the banking sector communicate with each other, across nations, and address what are the challenges being faced, by them, what are their requirements of KYCs and checks and balances, and create some common standards which every bank can adapt. This can help in, movement of information across the banks in a confidential manner, and it might help, faster payments as well, because the same checks may not need to be applied at various levels, coming from one country to the another. So, these are my thoughts on it.
What are the specific regulatory frameworks for which government must consider that much question? What about the specific regulatory frameworks which are required by Government of India?
That was my question.
Okay. Pranav, do you have any thoughts on this? Any specific regulatory frameworks?
So,
Because you're already in this sector.
because I'm involved in trade negotiations, not policy framing, but I would answer with my experience of how we kind of take policy decisions. So, like in trade negotiation, when we are taking any policy decision or we are taking any position in a trade agreement, we consult all the ministries, all line ministries. We also consult MeitY, we also consult DG Shipping, and we also consult RBI on financial services issue. So, so the government role is to identify the regulatory gaps, how that can be achieved. Once they sit with the industry, like they have to do stakeholder consultation. And there are other approaches also. It's not like the regulation is the only answer. There is a concept being developed which is self-regulatory organization. So any ministerial department or government, if thinks there is certain area which they don't need to touch, like industry can self-regulate, they will provide registration for that self-regulatory organization if the industry bodies comes up to the relevant ministry, and they can recognize this. But that process of recognition needs to be there for self-regulatory. So it's a policy decision which is made after receiving inputs from different stakeholders, not just industry, but also consumer organizations.
I had only one line. Why I asked this question? I have specifically mentioned about cross-border. A person is sitting in India, but the fraud has happened in other country. Now that was my question. What the regulatory framework is required, keeping these transactions under consideration, so far as the cross-border transactions are concerned. Anyway, thank you very much.
I just want to, you mentioned about the KYC, but still CKYC not properly implemented, point number one. RBI have to be very strict on that. Every day we are getting message from one of the other bank fulfill KYC. My second question, you mentioned about the RBI compliance report. Is there any regulatory body for all these fintech companies? No.
No.
Yes. Okay. So who will compliance? Point number one. Next question is, will the fintech company use AI tools? The question is, the reason is when AI systems makes a wrong error mistakes in lending loan, then who will be responsible? The developer, organizer, bank, fintech, who will be? Because as per my knowledge, these fintech companies disclaim responsibilities. It's not, because AI is a tool, not a legal entity. So my next question is, the recent Supreme Court order is there in one of the judgment that says a responsibility of banks to deploy robust technology, safeguard and held them liable for unauthorized transactions resulting from AI-enabled fraud reinforcement, heightened duty of care of protect customers' account. So again, who will? Because this subject is building trust. Can we have trust? Can we trust on AI? That is a big question.
Sir, I think before you answer, sir, I think this is a very interesting question and it requires a lot of time to explain. Unfortunately, I've been given an instruction.
Yes.
The subject is
Then once a fraud happens, then they think of the regulation and then the law is made.
Why
So
fraud?
it's coming from the bottom.
So this question is trust on AI, building trust on AI.
Yes.
Can we have trust on AI? That is the main question.
No, so that is the reason all these regulations, the frameworks are being developed, and yes, it is ever evolving. So as AI is evolving, as technology is evolving, these systems, like you said there is no regulatory body, but these regulatory bodies are being developed, and definitely we might see that happening in the next 1 year or 2 years, when things will be more streamlined.
So earlier you had difficulty in putting money in your bank. People used to store them at home. Then they developed trust and they started moving to the bank. So same as the AI. You develop
Yes.
trust, you start moving to AI. It's an evolving.
I think very well explained, yeah.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
probably we'll take your question after the session.
Now Now home to bank to where?
I think if given more time, we can have a lovely debate here, but we are running out of time. Thank you, Mr. Bumrah, for CEO Lexi Money, for handling the session really well, and thank you to all the panelists. May I request Sudhir sir to please present the memento to our speakers. I would also like to welcome Dr. Upasana Arora, Chairperson, SCPC. Mr. Pranav Narang, Associate, IIFT CTIL. Ms. Nikita Bhatia, Founder of Venture Easy. May I please request all the speakers for a group photo? Upasana ma'am. Upasana ma'am, please.
सब खत्म हो गया तो लास्ट में आके हैंड्स अप करने लगी.
Thank you. Thank you. We will now proceed towards our second session. This session has very experienced experts and senior advocates. Trust and transparency in digital finance, which revolves around legal tools for secure ecosystem. The session chair, Mr. Imtiaz Ali, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Sir has a distinguished career in litigation and constitutional law. He has represented key matters of national importance with clarity and expertise. His contribution reflects dedication to legal excellence and judicial integrity. Yes. Mr. Vikas Panwar, Country Business Manager, India GLEIF. Vikas Panwar is the Country Business Manager focusing on advancing global entity identification standards. His leadership supports India's integration with global financial compliance frameworks. Dr. Yashpal Sharma, former Joint Director, Government of India and Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Dr. Yashpal Sharma is a former Joint Director, Government of India and Senior Advocate. He brings deep experience in public administration law and policy. His leadership reflects a strong commitment to advancing legal and institutional development. Mr. Ambar Gupta, Senior Vice President, Legal Head, National Stock Exchange. He leads regulatory strategy, legal governance, and compliance for one of India's most important financial institutions. His expertise spans to security laws, corporate governance, and financial regulations. So now I would request you to please handle the session. Mr. Pranav will be taking the place of Professor James. Thank you, sir. We are again going to have an interesting session.
So welcome all these speakers. And since in the first session some of the topics has already been covered, so I request all these speakers to be confined to the topic which has been assigned to this particular session. See, we have to focus discussion on the strengthening the financial trust through legal entity identifications, escrow and tokenization, managing fraud risk, and data breach liability. So I would like to first ask to Mr. Kas to say something within the topic, within the ambit of the subject.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So I would like to thank, first of all, SCPC for inviting me and including this topic into the agenda. Thank you very much. So I think fundamentally, before I start anything, I think it's very important to understand for each one of you what exactly LEI is. So many of you might be knowing it maybe from the RBI circular or any of the SEBI circular that it is mandatory and it is mandatory to obtain and report. But it is equally essential to understand what is the background behind it. Like it is already mentioned in all the sessions before and today, that trust is the cornerstone of any financial transaction or any agreement between any two parties. Now, there are several actors which make the trust ecosystem better, and I'll not say LEI is the only actor which is going to solve the problem. But LEI, as very rightly said, emerged from the global financial crisis after the Lehman Brothers collapse. Public authorities across the globe were finding it really difficult to understand what is the actual exposure Lehman had at that point of time. So nobody knew which is the organization which is linked to the main company and what is the total exposure, which is linked to Lehman across the globe, not only in one country, but across the globe. So G20 has tasked this, this task to the Financial Stability Board, which is also one of the international bodies which provide recommendation to the international community on the financial stability, to create a standard which is universally acceptable and makes the data flow easy, so that more transparency can be made and data can be seamlessly put across the two counterparties and identification can be done easily. So FSB created GLIFE, Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, which is our regulator, and they have created a very robust ecosystem which is a collaboration between public authority and private in a very beautiful way. And it is not only a collaboration at a local level, it is a collaboration at an international level. So whenever we talk about trust, the foundational element always comes into play is the sovereignty touch. So why we are not even questioning once and just taking LEI, because it is a circular by RBI. And why RBI is implementing it? Because it is an initiative by G20, and that G20 brought all the public authorities together. They created a committee called Regulatory Oversight Committee, which comprised of more than 50 regulators across the globe. RBI is one of the members from India. Similarly, Central Bank, SEC from US, ESMA from Europe, PBOC from China, all central banks and financial institutions are part of that committee. They are the one who are supervising us. We are the authority, which is a front-level regulator managing the network of issuers across the globe. So that is the reason LEI is being used for counterparty identification, and there is a reference of LEI in very areas, be it credit, be it cross-border, be it derivatives. So, and if I talk exclusively about India as a jurisdiction, LEI has been recognized under the Payment and Settlement Systems Act. So this was the first thing which India did, and once it was recognized under the PSS Act, they brought several mandates. They started with over-the-counter derivatives because that poses the maximum risk. So they brought LEI and mandated it for every participant who is trading in derivatives. Then they brought it for credit. So any legal entity having a credit exposure of more than 5 crores collective across all banks has to mandatorily take an LEI and report to RBI. So that is what bank does after you provide it to the bank. So bank is taking your LEI code, they are reporting it to RBI and putting into a database called CRELIC, which is called the central database for information on large credit. And whenever RBI requires an aggregate level exposure of a single entity, they can pull out a data by using LEI as a hook. So LEI becomes a single hook which aggregates the data. It is only a use case for credit. Similarly, LEI has also been referenced in payments to identify our counterparty. So RBI has mandated LEI in RTGS and NEFT, but they started with a threshold above 50 crores. So it is an approach which is systemic in nature, not disturbing the market at one go, but starting with a phased approach. There are international recommendations as well. If I start to talk about it, I'll take the complete session, but there are recommendations like FATF recommendation 16, which recently included LEI as one of the identifiers to be used in cross-wire transfer. There is a ISO message, ISO 20022, which also has recently included LEI as one of the optional schemes. So that's
Thank you very much, Mr. Pawar. Your center focus was on the trust. Once the trust is built up, then everything will be attained and the transfer in the system. So you have to build up the trust.
Yes.
So this is what you were talking about is from the side of the RBI, what the RBI is taking initiatives and from the international. What is your suggestion, personal level, your suggestion?
See, I think...
any one suggestion, not more than that.
Suggestion from the point of view?
From your side, in order to maintain the more trust.
Okay. I think my suggestion to bring more trust is to comply with all the regulations which are laid out by the regulators. And that is the only suggestion I would want to have. Yeah.
They have to be law-abiding.
Yeah, we have to be law-abiding to
thank
create
you.
more trust. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, Dr. Yashpal Sharma, please take the mic and
thank you very much.
Within the topic, please.
Thanks a lot. Welcome all participants as well as our friends sitting towards this side. Very well said, trust and transparency. This was exactly the topic, and that pertaining to trust and transparency together. Two TT. This one TT is trust, second is transparency. Trust has been defined, if we talk in law terminology. What is the trust? Trust comes only when users believes that the system is secure, transparent, accountable, and fair. For so many years together, we are putting the trust in the mutual relations. Now a sort of relation is being developed. Online banking, UPI, mobile wallet, and crypto properties too. Again, we have to be in that trust only. But what happens when there is a breach of that particular trust? We look at the courts, the laws, the police. Though RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has given certain regulations that how we can manage. If bring into the notice within 6 hours, whenever it is a breach, and it takes care. And moreover, Payment and Settlement System Act, which was of 2007, has been elaborated in this way also. Directions on digital payment security. Every now and then, they have been warning us that there should be something like that. Now comes the transparency. This is trust. What is transparency? To have clear mandate. No dark pattern. This is a mandatory disclosure. And there is a third party that is sharing. There should be certain other things also, but we will be transparent in our transactions. Suppose I am transparent. Somebody rings me at all. I'm sitting at home. Somebody rings that the police is going to arrest you and you give this much money. Then what is my first and foremost job? Usually find every day in the newspapers that there is a cyber arrest. I was surprised to have a word arrest suffix with the cyber arrest and from them who are cheaters. Because laws are being made. Laws are there. But what happens that whenever we make a law to curb the things, these particular cyber crime people, they just find out certain other tricks to do so. Because one day I come across a case in which one particular bank was transferring the money, giving money to them, and all of a sudden the KYC happened in between and a lot of money was extracted from them. And they brought a case in the consumer cell. Now, there are certain emerging legal challenges also. Just our friends have been talking about AI driven, and there was a cyber assets volatility, jurisdictional issues, cross-border digital. Because cyber crimes are not confined to one particular barrier of a country. They can happen from anywhere of the world. Anywhere. So many companies, so many big international companies in US, etc., they have been even, their data has been breached and they have to pay for that. So deep fakes, identity, there's a fraud. Data localization versus global cloud infrastructure. We have so many things. Now, some eKYC was being discussed here. Customer identity, anti-money, impact, what does it create? Institutional trust and prevent system-wide failure. This is about trust and as well as transparency. And importance of trust is there that it is, what should I tell you, that digital finance, e-wallet, mobile banking, as I discussed in the beginning, digital lending, crypto accounts, etc., operates on the speed, volume, automation, creating risk. I mean, you want just within seconds you want to transfer the money. Risks of fraud, misuse, and data breaches. This is happening over there. Trust arises when users believe that this is safe. I mean, whenever we do the online banking, we think the things are safe. There are RBI regulators also. I told IT Act. In 2000, it was brought, IT Act. IT Act has got lot of provisions, but still it is to information technology. I tell you in IT Act, they're the biggest crime, that is cyber terrorism, and for that is sentenced to death only. I feel that there are other certain also, section 43 of this, section 66, section 60D, although 60A, 66A was curbed. That was of Shreya Singhal case, and that was curbed over. There should be transparency tools in financial technology. That is mandatory disclosure, fees, APR terms, data sharing, algorithm accountability, that is fairness, audit trails, account aggregator frameworks, open banking, no dark patterns. That is protection from malpractices. Those unfair practices are brought into this particular process. They should be curbed over there. Consumer protection, although the Act of 1986 was so much, I mean, it was an act, but it was not giving so much attention towards the consumer in a great deal. But after 33 years, after 3 decades, the new act has come into the emergence, that is 2019 Act of Consumer Protection Act itself. So that is very powerful. There's a provision of CCPA, that is called Central Consumer Protection Authority, which takes the cases suo moto. So consumer is being strengthened with the help of them. Fair recovery practices are there. No harassment in the digital lending, though government is trying to make, with the help of the RBI as well as with certain other laws. These two laws, what I'm talking about, these two particular acts, that is Consumer Protection Act as well as IT Act. They have been powerful for common people. Now, what we are talking about, legal entity identifier, that was LEI. What exactly is the purpose of LEI? I mean, earlier when we were doing it, we are studying it, what is the purpose? Most of the people knows about it, and to create transparency in financial transaction is the first and foremost purpose of this. How it can do it? That too, there should be certain tools also. So prevent money laundering, tax evasion, etc. This is again the purpose of what we call LEI. And help regulators track system risk globally. Because I told that cyber risks are not confined to India only, because it can be done from anywhere, any part of the world. Because when we are open economy and everything is open, so definitely we are, I mean, e-commerce we are putting in, as it was a question that why we cannot take action to the cyber economy which is happening across border. But we have certain measures also. Recently, I think, and what is the need of this LEI? That could you, I emphasis on that. RBI mandates LEI for corporate borrowers, entities using RTGS, etc., NFT, large corporation insurers. So these are particular things which are being, done, and LI has been entrusted this. In India, LI issued Legal Entity Identifier India Limited, that is LEIL, a subsidiary of CCIL Clearing Corporation of India. That's made like that. The validity is for 1 year, must be renewed annually. It could otherwise it would lapse it. And regulators, tracking system risk, etc. So this is something about LEI we are discussing. Because time is very short and we have to just finish it within 10 or 15 minutes. And there is a lot of topics which needs to be discussed. That is escrow. What is escrow? We have heard the word.
Payment mechanism.
That's a payment mechanism. Definitely, sir. Absolutely correct. Escrow is a legal and financial arrangement where a neutral third party, that is escrow agent, is called the third party. It is to be done. Temporarily holds money, document or assets on behalf of the two transacting parties. That is escrow. And usually we get these people who come and they assure you will get a loan, etc. So why escrow is used? What's the need of the escrow? We have been using it.
Dr. Sharma has so much material with him that the entire day will go on and we will not stop him. So because of the paucity of time, I have to interrupt. And now I would like to...
You asked me this thing.
Yes, sir, because you have given the good thing that TT...
I'll answer, sir.
You mean to say where there's a transparency, trust automatically develops. This is the core theme of his speech, okay, and your lecture.
You may ask that what is my proposal? What do I want to do?
Yes, of course.
I'm giving the question.
Your proposal is a suggestion, yes. The same question.
I'm giving you the answer where I can question. Thank you very much. So, a mutual, what I want that a mutual recognition of digital legal audits. If an entity is safe in your country, it should be trusted in ours. Let us build a bridge between innovation meet trust. This is one of my, I think, should I say, a proposal.
Thank you.
And the last, I'll simply say, लेकिन मैं अभी खामोश नहीं लेकिन मैं अभी खामोश नहीं हर गम को खुशी में ढालूंगा जो ख्वाब है मुझसे रूठ गए उन ख्वाबों को समझा लूंगा धन्यवाद
क्या बात थैंक यू वेरी मच एक चीज़ सर मैं आपके शेर पे कह दूं कि ये खामोश मिजाजी तुम्हें जीने नहीं देगी इस दौर में जीना है तो कोहराम मचा दो और आपने मचा दिया थैंक यू वेरी मच आइए सर let us
and Koram is this RBI Act also.
Yes, exactly.
IT Act also and Cyber Act also.
Mr. Ambar Gupta, since he is from the field of, I think from the National Stock Exchange, is the head of the legal department. He must pour some lights on this subject and with the experience of your field and with the suggestions as well. Please.
Thank you, everyone. A very good afternoon. A small disclaimer that whatever views I am expressing, these are on my own and not of my organization. Sir has already touched upon in quite detail on the issues of transparency. I will like to add few points because the topic is more on the digital data breach, crimes, cyber crimes, etc. Just to let you know, all of you, that the concept of cyber breach, data breach is not something very new. While it has gained a lot of prominence after the enactment of the Data Digital Protection Act, which has been recently also the rules has been also got notified. But historically in the year 2000 when the IT Act came and thereafter the amendment in 2008 has come, there was sufficient guardrails which were provided under the Information Technology Act itself that deals with the issue of data breaches reasonable security practices and penalty provisions. Just to give a brief update, Section 72A of the Information Technology Act did provided these penalty structures and consequences for unauthorized disclosure of any personal information to a third party, and was which the person was liable for imprisonment up to 3 years or penalty up to 1 lakh. Section 80 of the Information Technology Act also casts responsibility on the companies to maintain confidentiality of the information. 43A was there, which was dealing with unauthorized access of computer systems. So these provisions are already there. Based on that, various rules were also notified by Ministry of Information Technology, like IT intermediary regulatory guidelines, then reasonable security practices 2011 guidelines. So those were already in place, but their effective implementation was not much there. To give audience one case law, somewhere in 2012, there was a bank, which is a PSU bank. The HR team was investigating a matter where they found that one of his employees, he might be also having some income other than his normal employment income. But to prove that, what they did, they had the bank account details of that employee. So they wrote to they used that information, wrote to the bank to get the bank statement. So bank then unauthorizedly, without the permission of the account holder, which was the employee, they provided the bank statement because it came from an employer of the company. To prove, and in that bank statement, it was proven that the person was also earning certain amounts which is beyond his current employment. Of course, the employee was terminated for misconduct and etc. But that employee complained before the appellate authority of Cyber Appellate Authority, which is constituted under the Information Technology Act. The authority found that the bank was in violation of Section 72A because they had provided the bank has provided information which was not authorized and levied a penalty of 5,000 rupees only. So that was as early in 2012 when this incident had happened. Cut to now, we have a new Data Privacy Digital Act and the rules which has come, which has now significantly also increased the penalty amounts due to data breaches. And that is up to 250 crore, as previous speakers have also spoken. If they are unable, there have been breaches and they are unable to control those breaches, or if there are a violation, then up to of the DPDP Act, then 200 crores up to. And of course, if any child-related information is being breached, then 200 crore, and so on and so forth. So what does it tell us about, and why this is happening over the period of time? So over all the top points that we spoke upon here, there was always an issue of data governance in the organizations, and I'm sure each of us has also given our consent for using the data for XYZ purpose plus for other purpose. So today there is no data classification and data control or data governance issue which is happening, and that's why many of us keep getting SMS, phone calls from various people, for we don't know where when we have given the data. So all this is going to get changed after these rules get implemented by May 2027, where everything has to be very consent specific. And if there are any breaches to that, then of course there are liabilities which has to be put in place. So what the overall structure which has been put in place, that every company is required to have a proper data classification and governance mechanism in place. Reasonable security practices has to be implemented. So in the previous section, there were certain questions also which asked that why there is a penalty of 250 crores and all those things. So there the company has to prove that they have implemented reasonable security practices, and they are able to demonstrate, then the amount of penalty may be quite less. I give an example. When British Airways had a data breach in 2018, you might have also read about it. The initial penalty which was levied by the Data Protection Board was 183 million. Which after, all the investigation, that amount was reduced to 18 million only. So when such data breaches happens, the board or the investigation also takes into consideration various practices, audits, etc., which have been put in place, and what controls which have been put in place to demonstrate that what are the mitigation measures which are there, and therefore, of course, the penalty amounts, etc., will also get reduced. Now, the concept of reasonable security practices also is not new. Section 72A, which I spoke about you, has issued similar guidelines called intermediary guidelines, which provide the safe harbor provisions. And you all might be aware of the famous case law of Bazi.com, which has happened. Right. So there, this concept was proven, and they were able to demonstrate that they have demonstrated reasonable security practices. So safe harbor provision provides them low liability or less liability if they are able to demonstrate. So same concept has now been transformed in the new act as well, of course in a more detailed manner, where you have to implement those reasonable security measures, and there has to demonstrate that your processes are strong, your SOPs are strong. These are coupled with initial additional requirements of yearly audit, data protection impact assessment for large data fiduciaries. For example, there is a concept of significant data fiduciary under the DPDP Act. Basically, that covers if you are a company which is holding a large amount of personal data or processing a large amount of personal data, for example, social media agencies, or perhaps banks or hospital authorities. The government is yet to notify those those significant data fiduciaries. They are also required to have a DPI, data protection impact assessment, and yearly audit also to establish that all the processes and practice are working well. There are reasonable security safeguard which has been put in place. Now, before we go that also, many regulated companies which are regulated by RBI, SEBI, IRDA, those respective regulators have already put in place these requirements of cyber security audit, internal audit, information security audit on a periodical basis, on a yearly basis. An independent chartered accountant or an auditor is required to do a complete audit and submit a report to the board and to the IRDA or RBI or SEBI, which is applicable. So various regulatory authorities are already working there. For example, SEBI has introduced a cyber security framework for all the regulated entities which are governed by SEBI. So they have to implement a complete data mechanism and protection measures for all the data which are hosted on clouds. Right, all the cloud service provider, they are required to register with MeitY. So before any regulated entity enters into an agreement for data processing or for any software services, and where the data is going to a cloud service provider, it has to be ensured that those CSPs are empaneled with MeitY. So various measures and provisions which have been put in place by various regulators to ensure that there is a data governance mechanism, there is a data integrity mechanism. And now with the new DPDP Act and the rules which are coming, these will get more formalized. We will have more say or control in the manner in which the data will be used. We will have right for deletion. You will have a right for erasing. So, the companies will require to delete the data once the purpose is over. You will have a right to forgotten also. A recent right to forgotten has also been established by judgment of Madras High Court, where where this person was acquitted in a one very important criminal matter, but his name was coming in the searches in the court registry, so he had applied for deletion of its name, and court has recognized this concept of right to forgotten, and they have issued a direction that all the names in all the places where his name is coming as convict should get deleted. So these are the rights which you all will have. So through this structure of ensuring consent architecture, notice, data governance in terms of implementation of reasonable security practice, breach notification on a timely basis, and of course, what you can say, penal provisions to deterrent any such activity. The way I look at it is that we are moving in a right direction, which provides a greater control in the manner the data fiduciaries are handling each other's data.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta's lecture was focusing on particularly the security mechanism. You have given the reference of IT Act and the certain case laws, whatever you have dealt with and you have gone through that. Now I would like to, Mr. Dumpraj, though you have already enlightened the gathering in your first session, so please take the mic and go ahead within the topic which has been assigned to you. Please.
So, as I have introduced myself, I am working with the Center for Trade and Investment Law, which is affiliated with Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So, our organization focus is more on conducting trade negotiations with our prospective trade partners. And in that process, we are involved in handling our negotiation for trade and services chapter of various FTAs. So in that, one part is financial services. Under GATS, like financial services has been given a special status. There are special exceptions, prudential exceptions for financial services because it's critical. Financial services forms a critical system for any economy, whether it is developing economy or developed economy. And when it comes to measures which require compliance on cybersecurity issues, or even there are safe harbor rules for intermediaries, because there are a lot of intermediaries involved in a financial transaction. It's a complex process. Not a single entity cannot perform the whole each step in the financial transaction. So, as a service supplier who might be supplying a part of each leg of the transaction, they need to have access to the domestic financial system to ensure that delivery happens. So if a foreign supplier is coming to India and they are handling certain leg of that transaction, they need to be treated at par with the domestic player. So that's how a competitive economy can be built which has competitive financial service suppliers. And there's a business environment which supports these service suppliers, foreign service suppliers, who brings their technical know-how or even their understanding of how to conduct those transactions efficiently. So my inputs will be limited to that. And I can highlight recent developments where under India-UK CETA, there was separate chapter on financial services. And even in our past FTAs, there was a separate chapter on financial services. There were very specific commitments on that. So liberalization, whether it was in 90s or recent measures being taken to ensure the financial services are accessible to small business players and MSMEs. This can only happen if there is competitive business environment. But at the same time, there needs to be safeguards for regulators to ensure the system doesn't break down. So that's what I can say. So there needs to be a flexibility for policy space for governments in terms of managing financial risk, and also to a certain extent, international payments are regulated to manage various financial crises. So these are the flexibilities which are there with the government under trade agreements and under also WTO regime.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'll just add 2 points from. So whenever within this data protection rules and the law which has come, a major aspect has been on the data localization and transferring of data cross-border. So whenever the company is now trying to do any service agreement where some data from India is going to get transferred to a country outside India, a lot of impetus has been given in terms of data transfer and cross-border. If you look at the earlier DPDP Act, there was a very strict restriction in terms of data transfer, which to some extent has been now rationalized, and it gives a negative confirmation that the government can come and notify certain countries where data cannot be transferred in the integrity and sovereignty of India. But otherwise, data transfer process has been to a large extent relaxed, provided a copy of the data is maintained in India. So like for example, RBI has a detailed regulation which says that banks can send the data outside India for data processing, provided they have a copy which is maintained in India. Similarly is for IRD and for other regulatory bodies, number one. Number two, a big piece which I feel personally will be there in terms of data breaches and mitigating those efforts will be with the outsourced vendor. As you know that many organizations are today dependent on various vendors where these data are sent for data processing. For example, if you have applied for a credit card with a bank, while initial KYC and everything has to be done with the bank, because as per RBI regulation, KYC is a core function and cannot be outsourced. But the processing of data is still done by a vendor, for example, sending of the card or mailing you the PIN number and everything. So even for example, your credit card uses, a lot depending, or debit card uses, a lot is dependent on various switchways which were outsourced with various technology companies where the banks take those tools. So a lot of data which is happening and going to the outsourced vendor. But the bill, the new act, now make it mandatory that if there is any data breach which happens at the outsourced vendor, there the liability also will fall on the data fiduciary. Now this is different from the earlier bill which was there, where there were both the persons were made responsible. But now the new act has clearly said that it is the data fiduciary which will be responsible for any breach which has happened at the data processor level. So that brings a big legal need that when you contract and do such kind of agreement with your vendors, you do a complete data assessment, you do a complete data security audit of those vendors, and also your clauses under the contract should have proper clauses which says that in case of such incident they will indemnify you in case of any loss or anything that happens. There has been instances in the past, but since the DPDP board was not an active, there was no stringent control, no action has been happened. You may recall about 3 to 4 years back, a major private bank had a data breach where the switches on the credit card system failed. And one of the vendors, and it happened because of one of the vendors, the system failed and data got leaked out. So going forward, if some of these things happen, or for example, 3 years back, a food delivery app had a major data breach. And it was widely reported, but no action was taken. As recently as last year, one listed insurance company also reported certain data breaches which was hacked. But there were no penalties or no actions were taken because, of course, the regulations were in it. Once these acts get implemented, now some of these things will become crystallized and companies will be subject to close scrutiny and reporting and, of course, penalties if companies have failed to adhere reasonable security practices or, other compliances which are mandated under the new act.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you, Mr. Nadumpara. And because we are already running out of time, so please, if any question from the participants, so one or two, just couple of questions. Only just
because
one
actually we missed a topic we did not discuss about tokenization. So I would like to ask Mr. Gupta, tokenization when we are talking, and also Mr. Imtiaz Ali, that are we just restricting ourselves to the card payment fintech environment, or we are also talking about real world assets which are being tokenized now? And if we are discussing that, what is your personal view, which might have been developed from the exposure of your organization, about tokenization of real world assets in India and legal tools for that?
So thank you for that question. While I'm not an expert in that, but what I can explain you is that tokenization is something which has been also getting a lot of space, and it is also getting recognized both from legal as from commercial angles. So NFTs is one of the good examples where some of your, for example, arts and other products can get tokenized and can be used. Now, of
Those
course,
are digital assets. I'm talking about real world assets like lately tokenization is happening with like a government of Telangana. They are doing token and smart contracts execution for land deeds.
yeah, okay. From the, on the DLT platform and blockchain based. Yeah, so this is also happening, and it is also getting legal protection. Even Maharashtra state government has also issued their national policy on technology, where they have spoken about this tokenization and the blockchain-based technology being used for digitization or this asset tokenization of the land records. And of course, there are other use cases which are being used in other places. So this is something which is building. Even the national governance policy paper, white paper, which was announced by MeitY, they have also spoken out. But still has to be seen in that, how that works. One reference point I wanted to bring is that recently in Madras High Court has also spoken about, not exactly on tokenization, but on the virtual currency assets, where they said that these are not to be treated as assets. So there is a recognition which has been given that there is a legal sanctity to some of these assets which are there. But yes, this is something which is happening, and there is still a long way to go, but there are enough legal structure which are there, which is providing legal validity to these tokenizations. As I said, I'm not an expert in that field, but
I understand. But just
one thing I would like to add.
Last point to Mr. Gupta. From NSC point of view, is there be like any research or work going on for listing of these tokens on NSCs in anywhere in future? No. If you are aware of?
No, sir, we are not aware of any such thing.
Yeah, there is an enactment also, that is International Financial Services Authority Act. So this has got certain rules and regulations. If you go through that, you will find your answer inside that. Just go through that now. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Physical buildings in US.
Okay.
But nothing of that level, or I would say even iota of that, is happening in India. The first, hope of sunshine that we see is happening now, coming in Maharashtra, but executed in government of Telangana, right? So that is what my question was that.
So it is happening.
Okay, by and by everything would become.
Yeah, worldwide is happening. There are concepts of like ICOs, etc., which is already there, where founders are also issuing tokens when they are floating a new company. So since they don't have any shares, etc., so they issue initial coin tokens, etc., to the shareholders or people, and later on these can be converted into a securities market or shares, etc. But in India, these has not been given any legal recognition as of now.
I think, just to add here, I think regarding tokenization, I think very rightly said, I think the pace at which India is moving in terms of the tokenization and giving that framework around it, I think it is not comparable to what the other countries are doing. But I think there's one project which is called the Finternet, which probably is under Mr. Nandal Nankali and the general manager, ex-general manager of BIS. So they are driving that project, and most of the people there who are driving that project globally are Indians. A few of them, Siddharth Shetty and all, they are all the people who are actually closely associated to the DPI, which was built in India. So there is definitely a understanding with respect to tech, for sure, when it comes to implementation of tokens in India. 100%, because people in India 100% knows how exactly to implement it, what are the use cases. But regulators, to be precise, SEBI and RBI are taking a very cautious stand. I don't want to quote my interactions, but there have been interaction and they are positive. So they are not coming immediately, but more than the Indian regulator, yes, IFSCA, IFSCA is more probably open in terms of having a consultation or discussion over it. But it is also evolving. Nothing is immediate. I think you know better than us.
I have a question to Dr. James, actually. Since just
wanted to clarify. My name is Pranav Narang. I
Oh,
am
I
speaking
see.
in place
Anyway.
of him because he's couldn't make it.
Anyway, since you are associated with IIFT and taking care of bilateral trade mechanism, so my question to you is that in terms of litigation is concerned with the foreign buyers actually, so FEMA comes into a part. So in that particular context, Indian exporters are framing arbitration clauses in that particular cases. So are you putting such assistance to the Indian exporters officially in that particular mechanism what you are running right now?
Sorry, which litigation are you pointing?
Arbitration.
Like which case?
There are a lot of litigations in financial terms and conditions actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our negotiations are not on those lines. It's about.
Is it about advisory you are talking about or something different from?
It's two countries sitting together and deciding on certain obligations that each regulator of each country will have. Like RBI will have to comply with certain obligations, but it is not in the lines of like how these disputes will be adjudicated. That is private matter.
So, dispute resolution is not your part of that concern actually.
Dispute resolution between the countries, not between the private parties. So there are commitments with respect
No, when
to.
you're talking about countries, then specific, trade mechanism will come into a part. So you cannot sideline that country.
So trade mechanism will have commitments that the relevant regulatory authority will have to set up tribunal or have a appellate mechanism if the authorization is not granted for certain services. So if a foreign service supplier is coming to have a tokenization, provide a services related to tokenization, which is a new financial services, which does not exist, they will have to apply for authorization to apply.
Thank you.
The relevant regulator may reject it.
Thank you. If some questions or queries are still left and they are not entertained, so they are requested to directly contact the speakers. They will be available at the time of lunch. You may directly interact and so all would be happy.
So yeah, during lunchtime you can have a good session of questions. So I really...
Influencer are unregistered with the SEBI.
Yes.
And China, what they said, the professional degree holders, they should come be on the this health,
Yes.
medical and
I hope this was the successful session.
implemented, that's all.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, sir.
we have
Now I
chosen
would
Upasana.
request Dr. Upasana Arora to please address the gathering for 2 minutes. The chairman, SCPC. Chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is totally not my subject, but I was actually enjoying and listening. I know only about this fintech related that I am using UPI or I am doing some transaction, not more than that. And legal is also not my cup of tea. I have zero idea about any legality. But as a SCPC chairman, I have to be here. And but it was really knowledgeable session, and I really want to know more about this because everybody knows these days lots of frauds are going on, and people like me can be easily targeted by anyone. So I am thankful to my secretariat for organizing this kind of a very new topic. I must say it's a very new topic, and hardly anybody knows about this. So now it's a high time, and I am requesting all of you who are attending here and who are a speaker here, they should put it on their social media, and we should talk more about this. So people should get awareness about that, how we can save ourselves when we have such a kind gathering, august gathering, who knows this topic. So they can help us, and not only us, there are many our friends are there who are, suffering from such kind of problems. So these kind of sessions are really important, and we are supposed to do it more regularly. So I am requesting Chandranshu, kindly make it more popular also, so that it should not be only in one hall we are discussing and after that we forget about everything. We are supposed to talk more about this, so everybody who is not here or who are not in touch with us, they should also should know that how we can save ourselves from all these kind of problems. And because this is our, services are our core areas, SCPC means services. And I would like to share with you that there was a meeting in Ministry of Commerce, and service sector is doing very well. When they were showing graph, so it was going up. So I asked Mr. Minister Piyush Goyal sir, मैंने कहा sir, when we are doing so good, services are giving so much revenue to country, but we are not getting any kind of incentive. So kindly think about that. So he was noting it down. So maybe in next meeting, I am going to announce some good news for all of you. So thank you so much. And please now, I don't want to come between your lunch and my bhashan. So kindly go and join for the lunch. Thanks.
I would also request ma'am to please present memento to the speakers. Thank you to Imtiaz sir and all the speakers. It was a wonderful session. Mr. Imtiaz Ali, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Mr. Vikas Panwar, Country Business Manager, India GLEIF. Dr. Yashpal Sharma, former Joint Director, Government of India and Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Mr. Ambar Gupta, Senior Vice President, Legal Head, National Stock Exchange. May I request Mr. Pranav to please take the certificate for Dr. James, Head IIFT CTIL. Now I would please request for a group photograph. Chandranshu sir, I would also request you to join for the group photograph. Thank you. We may now proceed with the lunch and networking. I am sure all the questions will be answered during your networking sessions. Thank you.